Chapter 4381. This question frightened Luo Chan. She was about to disappear, but she failed and was caught by Lu Yin. Before Lu Yin had even asked this question, he had already decided to control Luo Chan because the immortal master was very useful. He glanced at Lu Yin. "What are you doing?" Lu Yin grabbed Luo Chan and stared at the immortal master. "I'll take care of Luo Chan for you. This way you won't be caught by Xianling, right?" "If it were that simple, I would have erased it long ago." The immortal master was furious. "Let it go. Regardless of whether the Luo Chan existed or not, it would be found by the immortal plume, so it was better to keep the Luo Chan. At least when facing the immortal plume, unless that old monster in Heaven Teller made a move, the other immortal plume would not be able to do anything to it." Lu Yin's tone was cold. "I'll help you get rid of Xianling." Lu Yin's words stunned the immortal master. Then he suddenly thought of something. Join the unknown? Out of all the civilizations it knew, only the unknowns could face the immortal plume civilization head-on, and only the unknowns could help it escape the immortal plume civilization. After all, Lu Yin belonged to the unknowns. Lu Yin replied, "That's right. Once you join the unknowns, you won't have to fear Xianling anymore." The immortal master was puzzled. "Why did you join the unknown? Although I don't know much about the history of your human race, I do know that they are the mortal enemies of your civilization. You don't need to know why I joined. In any case, you don't have a choice." The immortal master fell silent. He truly had no other choice. Turn back? That was impossible, as Ming Yu's capture was directly related to it. Even if Xianling hadn't seen it, if it dared to turn around, Lu Yin would immediately let Xianling know the truth, and it would be difficult for it to escape death. After all, Ming Yu was still alive, and the truth could not be hidden. It didn't believe that Xianling would be merciful to it. Was joining the unknown the only way? Lu Yin he looked at the immortal master. He wanted the immortal master to break free from the immortal plume and join the unknowns. It was not to help the immortal master, but to help himself. Killing Ming Yu and destroying the celestial plume origin tree would cause too much damage to the celestial plume civilization. After all, it was worth the reward of a 6 stars mission. If the celestial plume civilization knew that he was the one who did it, it would definitely take revenge. The human civilization would definitely be uneasy. He would not entrust the safety of the human civilization to the unknown so-called 1,000 years of protection. He had to transfer this matter to someone else. The immortal master was the best choice. Once it joined the unknown, the immortal plume tree would know that it had betrayed them. With the immortal master's strength, it was not impossible for him to kill Ming Yu and destroy the immortal plume tree. As for himself, although his whereabouts were unknown, it did not mean that he had participated in the battle to destroy the immortal plume tree. Even if he had participated, it would have been to cooperate with the immortal master. This was because the immortal plume tree knew that his strength was far too inferior to Ming Yu's. He was completely unable to influence the outcome of the battle. They would rather believe that the unknowable had long instigated the immortal master to rebel, all for the sake of this war. The immortal master had to join the unknowns to divert Xianling's attention away from him. Actually, if not for this reason, Lu Yin would not have helped the immortal master. It would have been best for Xianling to kill it. Back then he had wanted the immortal master to escort him to the 7 Treasures realm, but this was unfair to the Lost Clan. After all, the Lost Clan had been destroyed by the insectoid nest civilization. Lu Yin had once promised to help the Lost Clan destroy the insectoid nest civilization, and he still remembered this promise. Still hesitating? Lu Yin frowned. The immortal master said in a low voice, "Even if I join the unknowns, they might not be able to protect me. Xianling can teleport. Then stay in Jizong." "Xianling can't go to Jizong to kill you," Lu Yin said. He was also helpless. Perhaps he hoped that the immortal master would delay the time to worship the divine tree like him. This was also what he had thought in the past. Back then he had determined that the most suitable candidate to join the unknowns was the immortal master, but he could not find the immortal master at that time. Now the immortal master had to stay in Jizong. Otherwise, if he was targeted by Xianling, killing him would not be a problem, but capturing him and asking for the truth would be troublesome. Human civilization would eventually be targeted by the entire immortal plume civilization. The unknowns could start a war with Xianling, but human civilization could not. If he stayed in Jizong, he would have to worship the divine tree. Lu Yin had no choice. The immortal master agreed. Lu Yin immediately left the immortal master and lay down in the hanging coffin. His consciousness entered Jizong. He also wanted to see how the battle was going. As for the immortal master, he was not afraid that it would run away. First of all, Luo Chan was in his hands. Second, where could it run to? Even if he could not find it, could Xianling not find it? Run. That was courting death. Lying down in the hanging coffin, Mingyan's consciousness enveloped the god catalog, and the tricolored divine power slowly stripped away. This process was painful, and as the divine power dissipated, his aura weakened. Blood dyed the entire hanging coffin red, making the already scarlet coffin even bloodier. Lu Yin panted heavily. His injuries had been too severe this time. Absorbing the boundless green light had strengthened his body, but his internal injuries had not healed. He was not in a hurry to go to Zhizong immediately. Instead, he rolled his die to recover as much as possible. He did not show this state in front of the immortal master, afraid that it would attack. The third time he rolled the die, he rolled 4 pips. Time-stop space entered. The die's time-stop space was very strange. Whether it was outside or inside, there was a portion of absolute time that belonged to oneself. Now he understood that the die's 4 pips was time-stop space. Stop space did not come from a tributary of the river of time, but from the main river of time. He had always used the die's 4 pips to stop time, which was the main river of time. The ability to stop time clearly came from second brother Luomo, but how could this ability directly enter the river of time? Second brother definitely did not have this ability. He was still very weak, and that was because of the die. This die was originally a turbid treasure, and it did not have any innate gifts. It had 6 faces, and all 6 innate gifts came from his 6 older siblings. Did this die strengthen all 6 innate gifts? He did not know what kind of turbid treasure this die was, but to be able to directly enter the river of time's time-stop space, could it be a suppressing turbid treasure? Lu Yin recuperated in the time-stop space for several years, and his injuries had improved greatly. His energy had recovered, and only then did he reappear and return to Zhizong. As soon as he returned to Zhizong, he heard a discussion among the unknowns. He listened quietly for a while and understood that the terrifying existence was indeed the old monster Xianling. Everyone thought that it was dead, and even the unknowns did not think that it was still alive. Did the unknowns not know? Lu Yin did not believe it. He would rather believe that this battle was a test by the unknowns to lure out the old monster. As for the fact that this battle was originally caused by the Xianling, it was not important. The unknowns had prepared a lot for this battle, and Lu Yin was actually one of their preparations. It was just that the unknowns had not expected him to complete it so well. Those Xianling had returned the moment the terrifying existence awakened, and the battle seemed to have been temporarily suspended. Lu Yin is really ruthless. He actually destroyed the Xianling tree. The mouse sighed. This was his purpose from the beginning. But he is still just a scoundrel. He said that he destroyed the Xianling tree, but he did not really destroy it. That old monster has been guarding it all this time. Even Transparent could not do it, let alone Lu Yin. That old monster is the Xianling tree's final trump card. Even it was forced out, and the Xianling tree is not far from destruction. De Mao was disdainful. It had once crushed in Xianling tree, and was also one of the people on the Xianling tree's kill list. Red Hero's voice sounded, "How much power does that old monster have left?" Yuche spoke up, "Orange, don't be afraid. If that old monster wants to deal with you, we will all help you." His words were pleasant, but they were choking. Red Hero did not care about him at all. Air Mao said in a low voice, 8 colors, how much power does that old monster have left? It was also very curious. Actually, Lu Yin was more curious about it. It was just a shield, and it had become a spirit. 8 colors said slowly, "I'm not sure. It has been in hibernation since the battle. Even so, it might not be able to recover from that fatal injury. This time it used up some of its energy to restore the Xianling tree. It definitely does not have the power it used to have. Even if it only has 1 or 2% left, it is still very scary." The old guy was afraid. Lu Yin raised his eyebrows. Was this old guy really afraid? Not necessarily. Now that he thought about it, among the unknowns that he knew, this old guy was the one who hid the deepest. It was able to control the long river of time, and it was not simple at all. Moreover, in the 2 forced expeditions, its opponents were the strongest. At the very least, they were existences that Lu Yin could not touch. Especially the Mudwater Kingdom. When Lu Yin asked it who Ni Bailuo's opponent was, it replied with a hee. It really disgusted him. Now that he thought about it, wasn't that the answer? Ni Bailuo's opponent was it. It had already given the answer, but Lu Yin did not think of it. But that did not seem right. The old guy wanted Lu Yin to help it deal with its opponent. If it was Ni Bailuo, then it would not be Lu Yin's turn to act. Or could it be that this old guy had more than one opponent? This old guy gave Lu Yin a feeling that even if he was thrown in front of a terrifying existence like Xianling, it would still be fine. If the transparent keeper of balance was incomparably sharp and domineering and could break through anything, then this old guy was using softness to conquer strength. Lu Yin, congratulations on completing a 6 stars mission. You can now exchange for 2 missions with 4 stars, 2 with 5 stars and 1 with 6 stars. 8 Color's voice rang out. The other unknowns could not hear it, but Lu Yin could. 8 Color knew that he had entered. Lu Yin said, "The unknowns are lacking people. I would like to recommend the Immortal Master to join." 8 Color asked, "The Immortal Master of the Insectoid Nest Civilization?" "That's right. Yes, your strength meets the requirements of the unknowns. But because it was targeted by Xianling, Xianling can sense its location at any time. Can you help it solve this problem?" Lu Yin asked. 8 Color said, "The unknowns have no obligation to help it before joining. It needs to complete missions and exchange for rewards." "What level of reward?" 4 stars mission reward. "All right, I'll exchange for it," Lu Yin said. If he did not solve this problem, the Immortal Master would feel uneasy. Something might happen in the future, and if it could be solved, the Immortal Master would not need to immediately worship the Divine Tree. 8 Color agreed, "Let it enter trace." Lu Yin was about to ask if the Immortal Master could worship the Divine Tree later, but then he thought about it and decided that it was not appropriate for him to ask. Lu Yin exited trace and found the Immortal Master. "I'll use my 4 stars mission reward. Remember to return it to me in the future." The Immortal Master's emotions were complicated. From Xianling to the unknowns, its fate had always been controlled by others. "Thank you." It could only thank Lu Yin, but it was quite sullen. Chapter 4382. Lu Yin released Master Qingqiao from Mount Supreme, and he could bring the Divine Master directly into trace. Master Qingqiao looked at the Divine Master and wasn't surprised. The Divine Master belonged to the Celestial Plume civilization, so it was normal for him to appear on this battlefield. He didn't know how much Lu Yin had done. As for the Divine Master rebelling against Celestial Plume and joining the unknown, it wasn't surprising either. The Divine Master had been suppressed by Lu Yin before, and once he was captured by Lu Yin, his life would change. This was what everyone knew about Lu Yin. Also, try not to worship the Divine Tree for now. Stall for time and don't choose a color. "This is good for me," Lu Yin said. The Divine Master didn't understand. He didn't join the unknown, so he didn't understand. Lu Yin's gaze was deep as he stared at the Divine Master. "If it's good for me, it's good for you. You understand me?" Master Qingqiao glanced at Lu Yin. Although this wasn't a threat, it was more than a threat. The more he understood this person, the more he could feel the pressure of this sentence. Soon, Master Qingqiao opened the door and the Divine Master entered. He didn't hesitate, nor was he worried about what the unknown would do to him. Things had already reached this point. If the unknown attacked him and Celestial Plume joined in, there was no way he could survive. Lu Yin didn't need to lie to him. The Divine Master was different from Lu Yin. Lu Yin was forced to join the unknown and didn't have a strong enemy like Celestial Plume. If Celestial Plume wanted to attack the human civilization at that time, he wouldn't have been able to delay the time to worship the Divine Tree until now. The Divine Master was really forced into a dead end. After the Divine Master entered trace, Lu Yin brought Master Qingqiao back to the human civilization and lay in the hanging coffin again. His consciousness entered trace. A creature wants to join now?" 8 Color's voice sounded. "The Divine Master of the Insect Nest Civilization. Lu Yin will use the reward of a 4-star mission to eliminate the hidden dangers of the Immortal Plume civilization and allow it to undergo an unknown test. Does everyone agree?" "No." Air Mao was the first to object. De Mao also objected. Lu Yin frowned. He had forgotten about this. When he invited Miao Zun to join, these unknowns had also raised their opinions. Of course they all agreed. "It's my right to invite the Divine Master to join. Telling everyone is a form of respect for everyone, and I also ask everyone to consider the unknown's current situation," 8 said. Lu Yin was surprised. "Is that so?" "Hee, you said the same thing when you invited that little fellow to join us. Facts have proven that your decision was correct." "I agree." The old man chuckled. Soon after, voices rang out, all of them agreeing. Within Jizong, Immortal Master Qing he towered in the void, facing the Divine Tree, listening to the conversations around him. They were all unknowns, every one of them extremely powerful, not any weaker than Lan Meng. Today he was going to join the unknown. It was like a dream. It had never thought that it would join the unknowns. The insectoid hive civilization once wanted to become a fishing civilization, but now that he thought about it, it was laughable. Any fishing civilization's absolute methods were enough to wipe them out. It was also Xianling's absolute method that allowed the hive civilization to move unhindered. Lu Yin, the immortal body's power sensed by the immortal plume has been erased. Your reward has been exchanged. Do you still wish to exchange for another reward? The eight-colored voice sounded. Lu Yin asked, Immortal Master, there's Luo Chan here. He explained Luo Chan's situation to Eight Color, and Eight Color's answer was that Luo Chan had to die. Luo Chan's birth came from the immortal plume, which was different from Lu Yin's teleportation ability. He would be targeted by the immortal feather. Immortal Master also learned of the situation and had no choice but to kill Luo Chan. It did not care whether Luo Chan died or not, it only cared about teleportation. Now that teleportation was completely gone, it was like any other living creature, losing this absolute method. It found it hard to accept and fell silent. The moment Luo Chan died, which was also the moment the immortal body's power was erased by the immortal plume's power, the immortal plume tree let out an angry cry. So it's that thing. Nanling, what's wrong? An immortal plume asked. Nanling said angrily, that insect betrayed us. Luo Chan is dead and the power in its body has been erased. Zhizong and the immortal plume tree were separated by a great distance, but the immortal plume could still sense it. This was also the reason why Immortal Master knew that he could not get rid of the immortal plume. No one knew how far the immortal plume could sense a certain power. After all, their teleportation ability could allow them to appear in any location. What? Is that insect? It erased the power we left in its body. It was the unknowns who took action. No wonder Mingyu went missing, so it was that insect. I knew that there was no other unknowns on the side of the unknowns apart from that scoundrel. That scoundrel could not have defeated Mingyu and destroyed this tree. Despicable, we must kill it. It is even more despicable than that red hero. Kill it. Angry cries resounded through the starry sky. It's just a mere traitor, there is no need to be angry over it. In these years many of our kind have died, but the number of feathers will always remain at 10. A low voice came from below the tree, causing all the immortal plume to quiet down. There is a problem with this tree, I need to think of a way to solve it. Temporarily postpone the war with the unknowns. After a pause it continued, why has Gao Tian not returned yet? Bei Qing said respectfully, Ancestor, Gao Tian is facing the unknown's envoy of balance. This is what we discussed before the battle started. We will give Gao Tian a chance to kill the envoy of balance. This way the unknowns will suffer great losses. Foolish. The starry sky trembled and a terrifying presence suppressed everything, causing Bei Qing and the other immortal plume to prostrate. Who gave you the confidence to kill that little brat? He is the most deeply hidden existence of the unknowns, Gao Tian might not be his opponent. Bei Qing, Nanling and the other immortal plume were shocked. How is that possible? Gao Tian can't defeat him? The terrifying presence's voice was terrifyingly low. You all thought that you schemed against the unknowns, but in the end, you were schemed against by the unknowns. Before I went into hibernation, I warned you all not to underestimate the unknowns. The unknown's craftiness is beyond your imagination. Foolish. But he is clearly just a mere. Shut up. The terrifying presence's aura was vast, causing the entire space to tremble, causing all the immortal plume to tremble. After a while, this vast aura calmed down. Do you all have a way to find Gao Tian? All the immortal plume shook their heads. Is this Gao Tian trying to kill him? It was clearly the unknowns who gave him the chance to kill Gao Tian. Hateful, foolish. The unknowns are just as cunning as those humans. Hateful. Yu Ting raised her head. Humans? Yes, there are humans inside the unknowns. Bei Qing glanced at Yu Ting. I will kill Red Hero sooner or later. Not him, there is. Yu Ting said, hesitating for a moment, and that human has comprehended teleportation. With that said, Nanling remembered, yes, old ancestor, this matter was just about to be reported. You reported that the reason this battle started was because Yu Lu was heavily injured by that master of balance and was almost killed. And before that, it was because of a scoundrel in the human civilization who comprehended teleportation. Boom. The starry sky became heavy, countless cracks appeared in the void, spreading out in all directions. What? A human comprehended teleportation? The terrifying presence roared. Zhang Yang's aura made it difficult for the immortal plume to breathe. Nanling did not expect that one sentence would make the old ancestor so angry, it did not know how to reply. Is it a human? A human can comprehend teleportation? the terrifying presence roared. Nanling braced itself and replied, "Yes, Yu Lu said so." Also, at the beginning of this battle, that human who comprehended teleportation came here. His opponent was Mingyu, and Mingyu has been chasing him all this time. Yu Ting can testify to that. Yu Ting hurriedly said, "Yes, old ancestor is wise. That human has indeed comprehended teleportation, and he was the one who helped the unknowns set up Tai Ching's sourcebox array to shield them from the heavens. If we had not been prepared beforehand, heavens might have been blocked. Although this human is just a scoundrel and is not very strong, he has many tricks up his sleeves and is very strange." More and more cracks appeared in the void, and in the distance they were like bolts of lightning that split open the sky. From top to bottom, they were even larger than the immortal plume tree, and they were like red pillars that supported the heavens. "Don't worry about anything else. Kill that human first and destroy the human civilization," the terrifying presence roared. The words "human civilization" had completely enraged it. Beiqing whispered, "What about the battle with the unknowns and that traitorous bug? Nothing is more important than destroying the human civilization first. Do you not understand what I'm saying?" "Yes, old ancestor. Yes, old ancestor." The immortal master left no trace. In order to complete the trial, one had to destroy a specific civilization before they could join, and there were no exceptions. Now that it had lost Luo Chan, the immortal master's method of movement had become a portal, and it was not used to it. After the immortal master left, 8 Colors spoke to Lu Yin again. "How do you want to exchange for the remaining rewards?" Lu Yin replied, "There's no rush." 8 Colors, you didn't tell me that the immortal plume tree had such a terrifying existence. I almost lost my life. Shouldn't you say something? 8 Colors' tone was calm. This is a battlefield and anything can happen. Even the unknowns did not expect it to survive, let alone you. Lu Yin obviously did not believe it, and neither did the other unknowns. "Who is it?" 8 Colors replied, "It's the ancestor of the immortal plume tree. It conforms to the 3 laws of the universe and controls the turbid treasure. It's one of the strongest known existences within the core space, and it was one of the initiators of the civilization war against the 9th fort." Lu Yin's eyes flickered as he stared at the pitch-black no trace. In the distance, the divine tree seemed to have transformed into a giant immortal plume. Ancestor Plume? The initiator of the civilization war against the 9th fort? At this moment, Lu Yin seemed to see a corner of the past being lifted. It was clear that there was an enemy. "We thought it was dead, but it's still alive. If it's alive, the immortal plume tree will not be defeated so easily. This battle might drag on for a long time," 8 Colors continued. The other unknowns could not hear the conversation between it and Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked at the divine tree. "Why did you think it was dead?" 8 Colors replied calmly, "This is knowledge. Do you want to exchange for it with the rewards?" Of course, Lu Yin would not exchange for it. Although he wanted to know the details, it would be a waste to exchange for it with the rewards. It was one of the strongest enemies. Enough, the target was clear. However, this enemy was too strong and he was far from being able to deal with it. He could not even defeat Red Hero. Chapter 4383. Red Hero was the one who worshipped the immortal plume. Now, Lu Yin knew that Red Hero was not worshipping any ordinary immortal plume. It was very likely that beyond Rang Yu's line of sight, there were many powerful beings that he could not see. Those were the beings that Red Hero was worshipping. Rang Yu was too weak at that time and could not see them at all. It was like an ant. When it saw a sapling, it thought it was a towering tree. In fact, a small sapling blocked its entire vision and blocked the sky. Behind the sapling was a towering tree. In the previous battle, did any immortal plume die? Lu Yin asked. 8 Colors said, "Not yet." Lu Yin frowned. "I have already dealt with Mingyu. How could a knowing trace not kill any immortal plume?" Speaking of this, 8 Colors sounded surprised. The immortal plume was already prepared. It created a chance for Telling Sky and Invisible to fight alone. In the knowing trace, all the immortal plume worked together. Even the unknowns could not do anything. Are there any powerful beings among the immortal plume that are compatible with 3 universal laws? Lu Yin asked. 8 Colors answered clearly, "Yes. I should have told you this before the battle, but time was tight. After the battle, I could only tell you about the powers that you might encounter. Now I can tell you everything." Lu Yin's expression was serious. At the immortal plume tree, 8 Colors had told him most of the immortal plume's powers. He also mentioned Jiang Lu and Yu Ting among the immortal plume because 8 Colors thought that he might encounter them. As for Mingyu, the unknowns did not know much about him. Due to the uniqueness of the immortal plume, they thought that they could teleport. Many of them died because they drowned. Most of them knew how to swim. The more one thought that they were safe, the less safe they were. Especially when there were so few immortal plume. After the battle with the unknowns, there were only about 5 of them that the unknowns could recognize. These 5 are Telling Sky, Beiqing, Nanling, Yuting, and Jianglu. Among them, other than Xiaotian, the other 4 are all existences that conform to 2 laws of the universe. However, their differences are similarly great. For example, Beiqing and Nanling are experts that are very close to conforming to 3 laws of the universe. Yuting and Jianglu are normal existences that conform to 2 laws of the universe. Their strength is similar to Mingyu's. With their own strength and teleportation, they can unleash the power to challenge those above their level. In addition, the immortal plume has the power of 1,000 feathers and 1,000 transformations. It is even harder to capture and kill them. Lu Yin listened quietly and did his best to recognize the powers of the other immortal plume feathers. He would definitely encounter more of them in the future. And the war before them had yet to end. Suddenly, a door appeared below Zhizong and Master Grass rushed out. Xianling attacked the 3 universes. Lu Yin's expression changed drastically when he heard this, and he immediately withdrew from his knowledge trace. When he opened his eyes, he saw an immortal feather standing on top of the coffin, and it was about to raise its sharp claws and descend. Lu Yin stared at the immortal plume and opened his heaven's eye. His external pupil incarnation manifested 15 pieces of black armor in front of him. Kacha the hanging coffin was penetrated by the sharp claw of the immortal feather, and the claw tip pierced into the outer incarnation of the pupil, making a soft thud. Xianling was astonished. It was actually able to block its attack? Lu Yin's pupils shrank as the pressure invaded his entire body. This immortal plume could not be resisted by brute force, as it had destroyed the hanging coffin with a single blow. It was definitely an existence that surpassed the mud blade and the bright rain. Even if his physical strength had transformed, he would not be able to withstand it. He took advantage of the moment when his external eye incarnation blocked Xianling's attack to shatter the coffin and teleport out. The immortal Xianling's lips curled up, and a cold glint appeared in its eyes. It was the Southern Spirit. Although it was an eternal realm cultivator who was compatible with 2 universal laws, it was close to being compatible with 3 universal laws. When it saw Lu Yin teleport away, it also teleported to chase after him. Mingyu could not kill him, so it came. Lu Yin teleported to the Tianyuan universe and saw the 2 immortal plume attacking the sect above the heavens without restraint. Mr. Mu was protecting it with his cauldron while Jiang Feng was bombarding it with thunder. The sect above the heavens was in imminent danger, and the outer verse was trembling. Countless stars were shattered, and the astral river was swept away. The inner verse, Neoverse, and the Starfall Sea were all trembling. The immortal plume's attack range was too wide, and it encompassed the entire Tianyuan universe. Countless people were terrified. It was not only the Tianyuan universe, but also the spiritualized universe and the Ninth Heaven universe. The karmic celestial phenomenon was surging, and the Azure Lotus Protector was fighting. The Blood Tower Protector, the Startle Gate Protector, and the others were also fighting. This was an attack by the immortal plume against the human civilization. Lu Yin had not expected the immortal plume to attack the human civilization at such a crucial moment in the decisive battle with the unknown. What? Was it because he had captured Mingyu? Had destroyed the immortal plume tree? Or was it because he had mastered teleportation? He had no time to think about these things, he could only kill. Behind him, the Nan spirit appeared, and its feather god spear pierced through the void. Lu Yin hurriedly dodged, and he watched as the feather god's spear pierced through the heavens and through the Tianyuan universe. It destroyed countless stars and killed countless people along the way. The immortal plume was an existence that dared to kill Eternals, and they had their own standards for karmic restraints, which made it very difficult to restrain them. Lu Yin stared at the Nan spirit and he recognized it. Its 2 white eyebrows extended all the way to its feet. This was the Nan spirit, one of the most difficult existences to deal with among the immortal plume. It was second only to Beiqing's messenger. Little thing, how did you master it? Teleportation? The Nan spirit raised its wings and flapped them, causing the void to swirl up in layers. It transformed into a gale that covered the entire universe and blasted into the distance. The stars were swept up like marbles and torn to shreds. Lu Yin's eyes turned red and he teleported away. The Nan spirit sneered. It did not need to consider what Lu Yin cared about, nor did it need to think about Lu Yin's weaknesses. All it needed to do was kill. No matter what Lu Yin did, he could not make up for the difference between them. Lu Yin teleported away from the Xuanhuan universe and appeared outside the spiritualized universe. Yu, Grandmaster Grass and Heaven-Bearer Eternity were all here. Even if they were here it would be useless. In the face of the immortal plume, just the moon heron alone had caused the entire human civilization to be flustered. Now the Azure Lotus Guard had unleashed all of its power, but it was only able to stop Bei Qing, which was already very exaggerated. Bei Qing had not expected that the human civilization would have a powerhouse that could temporarily resist it. The Azure Lotus Guard's karmic phenomenon shrunk and no longer enveloped the three universes. He could not take care of everything as the pressure brought about by Bei Qing was too great. In just a short while, the Nine Firmaments universe and the spiritualized universe had lost countless lives. Even the karmic wall had been shattered. It could stop the hive civilization, but it was far from being able to stop the immortal plume. What about the unknown? What was the unknown doing? Lu Yin teleported away again, and the Nan spirit chased after him, its gaze growing colder. Although it was completely stronger than Lu Yin was not someone it could easily bully. This brat had relied on his shameless strength to freely teleport away under its pressure. It was no wonder that Mingyu could not kill him. This brat had to die. At that moment, the Nan spirit paused and seemed to hesitate. Then, its gaze grew even more vicious as it hissed at the sky. The next moment, the immortal plume disappeared one by one, leaving the human civilization. Although the immortal plume had come and gone quickly, it had caused great damage to the human civilization. The losses it had suffered were immeasurable. In the distant immortal plume tree, doors opened one after another, and the battle shifted here once again. However, this time it was not just the old man, the yellow unknown, and the others. There was also a white light that seemed to be the center of the universe. The moment it appeared, it illuminated the entire immortal plume tree. You really want to protect that human civilization? Aren't you afraid that they will become the second nine bases? A respectful voice came from within the immortal plume tree. An unknown voice also came out, but it was not the 8 colors but the white unknown. We are not protecting the humans. We are only protecting the rules of the unknown. Rules? It is just a method used by those at the top to rule. It is like a line. Whether you cross it or not, the experience of living in this universe is completely different. Will you bind yourself to that line? The unknown rules are greater than the heavens. Even if the human civilization will definitely regain its glory, they can't do it. Humans can even comprehend my immortal plume's teleportation. This is unforgivable. They do not deserve to have teleportation. After a pause it continued, and don't forget, you were the main force that once besieged 9 bases. That human civilization will take revenge on you sooner or later. Humans are strange creatures. They can be extremely humble but they can also be zhangyang to the extreme. The white unknown did not reply. The unknowns attacked one by one. Helpless, the immortal plume could only recall it. In the end, only Nanling, Si Qin and Changdo were left to fight in the 3 universes. Shangjing did not expect the unknowns to help the human civilization. It was just like how Lu Yin did not expect all the immortal plume to attack the human civilization. It could only be said that the human civilization was too important in Shangjing's heart. He wanted to destroy it first. That was the ultimate hatred. The unknowns attacked the immortal plume tree and changed the battlefield so quickly that Lu Yin was surprised. With the previous attack of the invisible unknowns, he thought that even if the unknowns wanted to protect the human civilization, they would at most send 1 or 2. When the strong fought, everyone had their own ideas. It was just a matter of who was exposed first. On Lu Yin's side, Nanling was still chasing after him. However, as the karma celestial phenomenon enveloped him, Lu Yin heaved a sigh of relief. Someone had replaced her. Nanling stared at Qinglianyu who was standing beside Lu Yin. The human civilization can still develop to this stage. I thought that the useless red hero was the peak that the human civilization could reappear. Lu Yin's gaze moved. Did they really not know about the immortal civilization? Qinglianyu's expression was solemn as he stared at Nanling. I also did not expect that the human civilization of the past would be hovered over by a group of birds. Lu Yin raised his eyebrows. He had never heard Qinglianyu speak like this. His greatest hatred was towards Red Hero, and his greatest killing intent was now directed towards the immortal plume. Nanling sneered and disappeared with a teleportation. Qinglianyu suddenly spread the karma celestial phenomenon. The immortal plume was held back by me just now because it wanted to kill me. Now that most of the immortal plume has retreated, they might not be held back by me. Lu Yin looked around. Back then, Yulu had relied on her strength that was compatible with the laws of the universe. With the combination of teleportation and thousand feathers, thousand transformations, she had killed her way in and out of the human civilization. It was difficult to stop her. Although there were several ways to deal with teleportation, they were not facing Yu Lu. Nan Ling descended from above. Even Qinglian Yu was afraid of the feather god's spear and did not dare to take it head-on. In the face of Qinglian Yu's counterattack, Nan Ling did not even take it head-on. She simply teleported and disappeared. There was nothing simpler than this. Nan Ling not only brought pressure to Lu Yin, but also to Qinglian Yu. Nan Ling's strength is not inferior to Red Hero. Qinglian Yu was afraid. Go and help others. Chapter 4384. Lu Yin teleported away, as he could not afford to be passive in the face of teleportation. The immortal plumes were attacking the human civilization, and their main target was actually Lu Yin. Since that was the case, he would be the bait and lure all of the immortal plumes over. In the continent of the 9 clouds, a gigantic tree branch fell and crashed into the ocean. It was the branch of the mother tree. On the Gate of Wonder, Mitsui held a startling cloud in his hand, and the door behind him was faintly discernible. When the immortal plume appeared in an instant, the door turned from void to reality. Blood Tower Defender gripped the blood blade tightly and attacked. Facing it head-on, Immortal Grove's sharp claws swept over, breaking the blood blade. Blood Tower Defender retreated step by step. He turned around and the blood blade slashed into the void. The gray color circulated as if a line was connected to the immortal plume. This immortal feather was called Siqin. It was also an existence that conformed to the laws of the 2 universes. In terms of strength, it was comparable to Mingyu. It was not something that Shueta Xiangyu could compare to. In addition, Xiangyu had been severely injured by Sharp Edge. Even if the 2 of them worked together, they would not be able to block it. Siqin spread her wings, and the feather god's spear shot toward Shueta and Jingmen. The 2 hurriedly dodged. As Siqin flapped her wings, the entire starry sky was suppressed, and the 2 of them coughed up blood. Violent gales blasted the ground from above. Rivers evaporated, cities shattered, and wails filled the land. Shuetayu spat out a mouthful of blood at Shuedao. Buy me some time. The upper defense of the Gate of Wonder stabbed out with his spear. Yunzhao, the shrunken door wrapped around the startling cloud and stabbed towards Siqin. The Siqin was disdainful of the mere human civilization. It raised one of its wings, and the aura of life gushed out. Combined with the eternal substance, it condensed into a giant pair of wings that shot down horizontally. This attack would not only deal with the startling gate upper defense, but also destroy the entire universe. Jingmen Xiangyu's face was pale. He gritted his teeth and resisted the pressure to ascend to the sky. Inside his body, the cultivation of the Nirvana tree's fusion technique was activated. His spirit trembled and blood flowed out from the corners of his mouth. The grudge of the past, the hatred of the present, even if he died, he would not allow these strange birds to succeed. Shueta Xiangyu gripped the blood blade tightly. His eyes were red, and the line on the back of the blade was dyed red. When it was completely filled, he would be able to unleash the strongest attack of his life. In the starry sky, wings formed from the aura of life fell down. The first wing collided with Yunzhao, and alarmed Gate Xiangyu's pupils shrank. The power of the abyss was completely condensed, and he pushed her up without any regard for his own life. Block, block. With a boom, the starry sky shattered. The startling sparrow stage swayed and cracked. Qingyun opened her mouth wide, her eyes red. Mother. The red color blossomed from the void, coming from an umbrella. Under the umbrella were Jingmen's Xiangyu and Chu Songyun. Chu Songyun opened up Jiuwen's umbrella and blocked the fatal blow for the Gate of Alarm. It continued to spread and enveloped Siqin. Siqin saw Red Umbrella, and her eyes were filled with hatred. She thought of Red Hero. This human dared to betray Xianling civilization. Although it did not participate in the Battle of 9 Bases, Xianling civilization could not tolerate betrayal. Red Hero was like that, and that insect was even more so. Teleportation was a natural counter to the Heartless Dao. Trying to use the Heartless Dao's red umbrella to deal with it? How laughable. Suddenly, it felt a chill run down its back, and it looked back to see Lu Yin looking down at it from above. A red line pierced through the void from his fingertips and wrapped around the umbrella's rib. Siqin was shocked. Not good, this was Red Hero's move against Xianling. Back then, Red Hero chose not to know and betrayed Xianling. Xianling had tried to kill him several times, but he had used this move to block it. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to become enemies with Xianling, this move would definitely be able to kill 1 or 2 Xianling. Lu Yin couldn't give Siqin the same amount of pressure as Red Hero, but it didn't want to take any risks. but then its body couldn't move. What's going on? It stared at Lu Yin's forehead, and around it, there were irregular lines piercing through. They were black. What was this? Some of the Xianling recognized the ten-eyed crow's power, but some did not. Not all of them recognized it the same way, as the ten-eyed crow had died long ago and was no longer within the Xianling's range of apprehension. Thus, there was no need for it to recognize all of them. Lu Yin took a step forward and charged towards Si Qin. His body suddenly withered, but every step he took allowed his body to recover. After more than 10 steps, he had accumulated the maximum amount of power he could absorb. He punched towards Si Qin from above, and this attack surpassed all the power he could muster in his normal state. His body had just undergone a metamorphosis and was now several times stronger than before. This attack caused Si Qin to feel pressured in an instant. At the same time, xianxia appeared from behind, his crimson blade glowing with a blood-red light as he slashed upwards. Just as Lu Yin and xianxia's attacks were about to land, 2 feather god spears appeared from the side and pierced towards the two. If their attacks landed, they would definitely hit Si Qin, but they would also be hit by the feather god spears. The feather god spears came from the south spirit. Be careful. Xianxia shouted. Lu Yin saw the feather god spears and also saw the vigilance and unease in Si Qin's eyes. He changed his fist into a palm and teleported past Si Qin. He grabbed the blood-wielding saber's hilt and threw it out. Xianxia was thrown out and one of the feather god spears missed. It pierced through the starry sky and the mother tree at the same time, shooting out of the 9 firmaments universe. The other feather god spear brushed past Lu Yin's body and left a bloody mark on his skin. Xianxia had no intention of dodging just now, and he would rather take the feather god spear's attack. Xianxia wanted to slash at Si Qin. Lu Yin did not doubt this at all, as he had seen Xianxia's determined gaze. That was why Xianxia had thrown him out. Otherwise Xianxia would most likely die. Xianxia's attack was not enough to kill Si Qin, and it could not even severely injure her. The difference between him and Si Qin was too great, but the feather god spear could kill him. It was not worth it. The south spirit appeared and lowered her head. Feather god spears stabbed towards Lu Yin as she roared, "Ten-eyed crow. You still have the ten-eyed crow's power." Lu Yin teleported away with xuanhuan. Above the south spirit's head, the karma celestial phenomenon descended like a funnel and attacked Nan's spirit. The south spirit sent Si Qin flying with a claw and teleported away. Si Qin also subconsciously teleported away. Green Lotus Xiangyu landed on the spot with an ugly expression. It was too disgusting to fight against teleportation. He looked to the other side and saw Xianxia panting heavily. His hand that was holding onto the blood-wielding saber was covered in wounds. Now is not the time to risk your life. Green Lotus Xiangyu said and looked at Xianxia in the distance. You guys gather. It is more important to protect your own lives. At this moment, the red umbrella opened up in one direction and kept expanding. It was about to cover the entire 9 firmaments universe. Xuanhuan closed his eyes and did not look at the immortal feather. He only released the red umbrella. The south spirit and Si Qin teleported outside of 9 firmaments universe. That hateful red hero. If he did not create this move, we would not be afraid. The south spirit's tone was low. I did not expect this human to have the ten-eyed crow's power. He must die. Si Qin was puzzled. Ten-eyed crow? That sounds familiar. The ten-eyed crow is a rather terrifying creature. It has 10 eyes and is extremely talented. It has a range of inches and many fishing civilizations' absolute methods are countered by it. And it is good at killing immortal feather, the south spirit said. Si Qin exclaimed, I remember now. Yu Ting mentioned it before. Its strength surpassed Yu Ting's, but it had lived longer than Yu Ting. The south spirit said, you must be careful of that human. Do not look at his eyes. Once you are fixed, it will be difficult to escape. As for the red umbrella's move, there is nothing to be afraid of. Kill the other humans first. Kill them all. Okay. Si Qin teleported and disappeared. The south spirit stared at 9 firmaments universe and teleported as well. Lu Yin stared at the south spirit and Si Qin. Their target was him, but the human civilization was also within their range of destruction. Any carelessness could lead to casualties. Seeing the south spirit and Si Qin disappear at the same time, he immediately teleported to Tianyuan universe. At this moment, there were 3 immortal feather in the human universe. The south spirit, Si Qin, and another one called Changdo. They were all existences that were compatible with 2 laws. Among them, the south spirit was the strongest, possessing strength that was close to matching 3 laws. The second was Qin and the last was Changdo. At this moment, Changdo was entangled with Master Bitter Lamp, Master Qingqiao, Heaven carrying immortality, and Bayu. It was trying to find a way to break down the defense of the 4 eternal beings. Although its strength was far beyond the 4 eternal beings, it was still 4 eternal beings. It was almost back-to-back defense, and it would not be easy to break down in a short time. If the South Spirit and Qin wanted to attack, the best targets would be Mr. Mu and Jiang Feng in the Tianyuan universe. They had no opponents now, so they were still cautious. The moment Lu Yin teleported, the South Spirit and Qin appeared at the same time. Lu Yin's heart sank. He expected these 2 immortal feather to attack here, but he did not expect them to attack together. They would only attack together. "Master, be careful," Lu Yin shouted. Mr. Mu's eyes widened. He put one hand in front of his chest and waved. Gray flowed and turned into scenes. Upon closer inspection, they were exactly the same as the surrounding scenes. Even the changes in the scenes changed with the changes in the surroundings. It was as if the surrounding void was replicated. There was a cauldron in each of the scenes. Nan's spirit and Qin attacked at the same time, and the pressure almost caused the sect above heaven to collapse. This was not something Lu Yin, Mr. Mu, or Jiang Feng could withstand. This pressure was enough to crush everything. Fortunately, the Azure Lotus Emperor's karma celestial phenomenon slashed across without any order. It rebuilt the karma wall that had once surrounded the Tianyuan universe and supported the sky. With a boom, the karma wall shattered. In the Ninafirmament's universe, the Azure Lotus Emperor coughed out blood. Qin was fine, but the South Spirit was an absolute powerhouse. In the Tianyuan universe, Lu Yin stared at Qin with his celestial eye. Qin did not even look and closed her eyes. Feather God spears descended, and the South Spirit's Feather God spears also appeared. She wanted to destroy Lu Yin's group, the sect above heaven, and even the Tianyuan universe. At that moment, the cauldron vibrated and the scenes appeared. The South Spirit stared at the cauldron. "What is this?" "Be careful. This is the 9th wall's suppression treasure. I didn't expect it to still exist." When Qin heard this, she immediately teleported away. It wasn't that they couldn't withstand the cauldron's bombardment, but the key was that the words turbid artifact had intimidated them. Moreover, during the War of the 9 Bases, every single turbid artifact had displayed an extremely terrifying power, causing even Xianling to be extremely wary of them. They teleported away, but the cauldron was everywhere. Lu Yin was shocked. This was a time album. When did Master learn Zhao Ran's time battle technique? Mr. Mu's expression turned serious. Beside him, Jiang Feng slowly exhaled and then disappeared into the void. He was clearly there, but he could not be seen. Everything had begun from nothing. The universe itself was nothing. He lifted his foot and walked towards Qin. Chapter 4385. Lu Yin wanted to stop her, but he realized that Qin did not seem to have noticed Jiang Feng. Jiang Feng was clearly walking towards it, but it was as if he could not be seen. It was the complete opposite of the celestial eye. The celestial eye could see everything, but Jiang Feng seemed to have completely disappeared. The cauldron continued to attack, and beads of sweat dripped from Mr. Mu's forehead. Facing such a terrifying powerhouse was extremely stressful, and this was a battle of life and death. Lu Yin did not care about anything else. He released the starry sky from his heart, and the silver and blue lines merged. Dual-colored God Force transformation. Terrifying God Force surged and it shot into the sky. Nanling looked at Lu Yin in shock. This kid could actually do this? It could not let him live. Just as it was about to attack, the Azure Lotus Defender arrived in front of it. He pointed a finger and it was the Thousand Faces Karma Wheel. Nanling casually threw out the Feather God Spear. The Feather God Spear was instantly destroyed with ease. The Azure Lotus Defender avoided the Feather God Spear, and God Force came from behind, sweeping towards Nanling. Nanling waved its hand, and its sharp claws shattered the God Force. It was much easier than when Mingyu had fought against Lu Yin's dual-colored God Force transformation. Especially after Lu Yin's physical body had transformed, he could withstand even more God Force. Although his dual-colored God Force transformation had not reached the level of a tricolored God Force transformation, it was not far from it, and it was unable to pose any threat to Nanling. Nanling's gaze was extremely cold. It teleported close to Lu Yin and its sharp claws fell. Lu Yin did not dodge, and his celestial eye stared at Nanling. Nanling subconsciously closed its eyes. Lu Yin raised his hands and put his palms together. At this moment, all of his God Force poured into his arms. His physical body's transformation allowed him to withstand the dual-colored God Force transformation, and he would not be overwhelmed by it. Facing Nanling's attack, he compressed all of his God Force transformation to block this claw. The sharp claws pierced into his palms. Within the God Force, its speed slowed, but it did not stop. Nanling's eyes were filled with mockery. "Human, you underestimate the difference between you and me." The sharp claws slowly approached Lu Yin's chest. At this moment, Lu Yin would not be able to dodge even if he teleported, as he would have to teleport along with the South Spirit. The feathers around the South Spirit's body exploded, and it allowed the Azure Lotus defense to attack without moving. It wanted to pierce its claws inch by inch into Lu Yin's heart and tear this human apart. Lu Yin raised his head and looked at Nanling with a smirk. "You're underestimating me. How can a bird like you understand the wisdom of a human?" His clothes were torn apart at his chest, revealing his black armor. The sharp claws pierced through the armor, but it remained motionless. Nanling's pupils shrank. How was this possible? He was actually able to block its attack. Lu Yin suddenly exerted strength in his hands and grabbed Nanling, Sr. The aura of the Blue Lotus Guard, who was originally unable to do anything to the South Spirit, suddenly changed. He stood in the starry sky, and the Thousand Faces Karma Finger Heavenly Wheel appeared around him. It wasn't a finger but 1,000 fingers. Each heavenly wheel was condensed from the Thousand Faces Karma Finger Heavenly Wheel. The Thousand Fingers Heavenly Wheel contracted the entire Karma Great Celestial Phenomenon. From afar it looked like a blooming lotus. The lotus scattering hands, heavenly wheel, lotus treasure mirror. The Blue Lotus Guard opened its eyes and pointed a finger at Nanling. Nanling was aghast. This human had actually been hiding his strength all this time. This finger made it feel a chill all over its body. There was danger it had to dodge. Its aura fluctuated and Lu Yin's arms cracked open. Blood splattered everywhere, but he still used his godly power to suppress his arms and firmly held onto Nanling. Nanling wanted to teleport, and Lu Yin did the same, disappearing in an instant. However, in that instant Lu Yin stared at the Blue Lotus Guard and reappeared in an instant. Nanling could not erase what Lu Yin had done in that instant. What it could see was that it had teleported in advance, and Lu Yin had returned after it. Even though they kept changing their positions, they were still moving around the Blue Lotus Guard. The Blue Lotus Guard's finger was about to descend. 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations. Nanling used its life-saving technique and split into 1,000 clones that flew in different directions. Only one of them was real, but even Nanling did not know which one was the real one. Only when it did not know could it be untraceable. The Lotus Treasure Mirror spread out at the same time. Why was there 1,000 fingers? The target was the 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations. At this moment, the 1,000 southern spirits were hit by the 1,000-finger sky wheel at the same time. In just an instant, the southern spirit's 1,000 feathers and 1,000 transformations was already at its limit. It was impossible for them to teleport away at the same time. What Lord Green Lotus wanted was this instant. Nanling was pierced through one by one, and only one managed to block the sky wheel. However, there was only one sky wheel and it posed no threat to Nanling at all. It only managed to force Nanling back a single step. Lu Yin took the opportunity to teleport to Nanling's side and grab it. The treasured lotus mirror had been broken, and Nanling stared at the Blue Lotus Guard in front of it. It turned around and clawed at Lu Yin. This human was the greatest threat. Lu Yin raised his head and used the black plate to block the claw. At this moment, Nanling suddenly felt that something was amiss. The sky wheel that had broken through the 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations had not disappeared. The Blue Lotus Guard's gaze fell silent. Since he understood Xianling's methods, how could he not be on guard against the 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations? From the very beginning, the treasured lotus mirror's target had not been Nanling before it had used the 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations, but at this moment. As long as he and Lu Yin touched Nanling at the same time, it would be enough. Nanling slowly turned around and stared at the Blue Lotus Guard. Not good. All sky wheel transformations karma gathered and condensed into the finger that had struck Nanling. A lotus bloomed at the tip of the Blue Lotus Guard's finger. 1,000 Dao sky wheel treasured lotus mirror. Bang. There was a loud bang and Nanling spat out blood as it was sent flying. Its body had been pierced through, and white ripples appeared as it flew into the distance like a shooting star. Lu Yin took advantage of this opportunity to teleport closer. Within his body, the red, silver, and blue lines intersected. It was the tricolored godly power transformation. In the Ninafirmament's universe, the red line under the red umbrella was fake. Actually, it had been real at first, but when Lu Yin had teleported away with Nanling and Si Qin, he had changed it. His goal had been to confuse Xianling. He had used the tricolored godly power transformation to defeat the Mud Blade, and then he had defeated Mingyu at the Immortal Plume Tree. No one knew about this, and the Immortal Plume Tree had a terrifying existence. He was not sure if Xianling knew about this, so he had used the red line as a precondition to lower Xianling's vigilance. Now was the time for him to make his move. The tricolored godly power transformation surged, and Lu Yin raised his palm and slammed it down, attacking Nanling. The Blue Lotus Guard pressed down with both palms, releasing the Great Karma Celestial Phenomenon. It turned into an attack of karma that blasted towards Nanling from another direction, not giving it any time to breathe. The Treasured Lotus Mirror was a technique that the Blue Lotus Guard had hidden to deal with Red Hero, but now it had been forced out. Nanling's threat was no less than Red Hero's, so there was nothing he could do. In the distance, Si Qin was shocked. Nanling had actually been injured? How was this possible? Looking at the distance, there were only a handful of people who could injure Nanling. They were either old monsters who were compatible with the 3 laws of the universe, but the rest were very difficult. Even if this human civilization had the power to injure Nanling, it should not have been able to hit it. He should have hit it. What happened? Suddenly it also felt a chill. In front of it, a sword edge descended, accompanied by the roar of thunder. Si Qin stared at the human in front of it. When did he come? It did not even notice him. A sword slashed horizontally. 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations. Si Qin disappeared. Jiang Feng's sword slashed the air. Behind him, the feather god's spear stabbed, but it was blocked by the cauldron. Jiang Feng was helpless. If it were other Eternal Realm experts, even if they were compatible with the 2 laws, they should have hit it, regardless of whether they could injure it or not. However, the Xianling was too disgusting. It was difficult to break the teleportation. When he entered that state, he could not isolate the Xianling from the universe. Si Qin was surprised. Was this the human civilization? She had not participated in the War of 9 Bases and did not understand what the human civilization meant in that era. Now she experienced it. She had almost been hit just now. Although it seemed that the move could not hurt her, she was still scared. Xianling was not afraid of power that surpassed her, but she was afraid of methods that could break her. Obviously, this human civilization had done it. In the distance, godly power and karma descended. Nanling's feathers were stained with blood, and its eyes were gloomy. It was actually injured. Hateful humans, die. They must die. It clenched its sharp claws, turned its body and flapped its wings up and down. One attack resisted godly power and the other attack resisted karma. With a boom, godly power and karma were both torn apart. Lu Yin's gaze changed. This was the strongest attack he could make at the moment. It could not hurt Nanling at all. Was the difference big even if it was the 3-colored godly power transformation? Qing Lianyu's heart sank. This was the power that he was sure he had to join forces with Jiuwen to fight against. Nanling's strength was comparable to Red Hero. Even if he had hidden methods, he could not deal with it. Lu's combat power was also helpless. Lotus Treasure Mirror was his strongest move. It was rare to be able to injure it once, and it was difficult to have a second chance. Nanling flapped its wings and roared. Its screeching resounded through the 3 universes, and countless people were terrified. Lu Yin's expression was ugly. He looked at Qing Lianyu. Senior, stop hiding. It's time to use your real strength. Qing Lianyu was helpless. I have already used it. Lotus Treasure Mirror is a killer move specially prepared for Red Hero. Lu Yin looked at him. Senior, you are compatible with 2 laws of the universe. What about the other one? Qing Lianyu took a deep breath. I am not good at killing. Lu Yin's heart sank. At this time, Qing Lianyu could no longer hide. Furthermore, Red Hero, the enemy, was already clear, so there was no need to hide. This was really troublesome. His mind was filled with killing intent, and his godly power kept trying to drown out his rationality. Fortunately, he had already used it twice and his body had transformed so he could suppress it. Lu Yin, Qing Lianyu said. Lu Yin looked at him. The power of karma is very strange. Everyone has a different understanding of it. It can be used to kill or deduce. I have a move that can suppress Nanling, but it needs to be very close to it to help me find an opportunity, Qing Lianyu said. Lu Yin looked at Qing Lianyu and felt uneasy. Senior, could it be a move to perish together? That won't do. Qing Lianyu laughed. I'm not that stupid to perish together with a bird. I'm just restraining it temporarily. It shouldn't last long. I just hope that the battle on the other side will end soon. Lu Yin frowned. Was that so? Don't think too much. Keep your eyes on it. Its target might not be us, Qing Lianyu reminded. As soon as he finished speaking, Nan Ling screeched again and stared at Lu Yin and Qing Lian. Of course, Qing Lianyu did not look at Heaven's Eye. The mocking smile in his eyes suddenly disappeared. Lu Yin's eyelids twitched. If that smile was not aimed at them, then who was it? Master? Or Qing Lianyu and the others? Pinnacle Mobile Version Website. Chapter 4386. In the ninth heaven universe, Chu Songyun spat out blood. Above his head, the red umbrella was pressed down, and the violent force smashed him and the umbrella to the ground. Nan Ling appeared, its body dyed red with blood. The pain made it crazy. It wanted to wipe out the human civilization, so it started with these eternal beings. The feather god's spear stabbed at Shueta Xiangyu and Jingmen Xiangyu. Jingmen Xiangyu immediately opened the door and left with Shueta Xiangyu. However, the door was shattered by Nan Ling's violent force. The two barely avoided the attack of the feather god's spear. Nan Ling's claws descended, and Lu Yin appeared with Qing Lian Xiangyu. Nan Ling disappeared instantly. Lu Yin suddenly stared at the Tianyuan universe. Not here? It's the spiritualized universe. Ku Deng, Qing Chao, Jia Tian, and Ba Yu, the four eternal beings, stood back to back and resisted Changdo's attack. Nan Ling's appearance caused them to cough up blood. Nan Ling's eyes were ferocious and its claws fell. The first unlucky one was Jia Tian. The space swamp was torn apart and the hard shell was broken. He screamed and hurriedly retreated. Ba Yu was shocked. This kind of pressure was comparable to the hero ancestor. She didn't even have the thought of resisting. One by one the lanterns lit up. What followed closely was the bamboo fence of the grass grandmaster. However, it was unable to resist the sharp claws of the southern spirit and was torn to shreds. Everything happened in an instant, and Lu Yin had no time to help. Master Qing Chao reacted the fastest and took out the door to knowing whereabouts. Nan Ling stopped subconsciously. Knowing whereabouts? Lu Yin took the opportunity to appear with Qing Lian Xiangyu, and Nan Ling teleported away. Dozens of feather god spears were left behind, stabbing at everyone. Nan Ling's feather god spears couldn't be blocked, so Lu Yin teleported away with everyone. The feather god spears pierced through the universe, leaving traces. Far away, Lu Yin led everyone out. Peer. Nan Ling and Changdo flew across, making a mocking sound. Lu Yin's face was gloomy. It didn't want to kill Senior Ku Deng and the others. Qing Lian Xiangyu also thought about it. They almost forgot that Xian Ling could only use the dream of 1,000 autumns to erase the karma binding, but it couldn't ignore it. Nan Ling had the chance to kill Master Ku Deng and the others. As long as it shot the feather god's spear, Master Qing Chao and the others wouldn't survive. It didn't do so, it gave itself a chance to attack. If it killed several eternal beings, it wouldn't be able to continue fighting. It was playing with them. But even though they knew this clearly, they couldn't take the risk. Could they use Master Bitterlamp's life to test Nan Ling's acceptance of the karmic bondage? They couldn't do it. To Nan Ling this was just a game of cat and mouse. This was its revenge for being injured. The human civilization had to pay a heavy price. Lu Yin and the rest were waiting for the results of the battle between Unknowable and the immortal plume tree. Nan Ling and the rest were also waiting. From their point of view, Unknowable was willing to do anything for the sake of the human civilization. The battle with the immortal plume tree would not last for too long, and the human civilization would definitely be destroyed. The human civilization did not understand the War of the Nine Bases era at all. The unknowns were also one of the main culprits behind the destruction of the human civilization. Did they really expect the unknowns to help them? What a joke. We can't be so passive. The southern spirit retreated as soon as it made contact. With its teleportation ability we can't protect them. Qing Lianyu said in a deep voice. Lu Yin felt bitter. Protect them? Wrong, the Azure Lotus Guard was actually protecting Lu Yin as well. Otherwise, even with his tricolored divine power transformation, he might not have been able to protect himself and would have been forced to dodge. If it attacks we will attack too. Changdo. The Karma Celestial Phenomenon spread out. Lu Yin released the Karma Heavenly Tao and merged it with the Karma Celestial Phenomenon. In the past he merged the Karma Celestial Phenomenon to help himself. Now he wanted to help the Azure Lotus Guard. He did not believe that the combination of the Karma Heavenly Tao and the Karma Celestial Phenomenon would not give him a chance. The starry sky rumbled and shook. Countless people looked up in horror. Was the world about to collapse? Ever since the Tianyuan universe came into contact with the core space, the battle changed from one part of the starry sky to another part of the universe. Any battle would affect the entire universe and it was unbearable. However, this was the only way for humans to climb up. Lu Yin's Karma Heavenly Tao shocked the Azure Lotus Guard. How many Eternal Realm experts have you killed? How many? Quite a lot. The Karma Celestial Phenomenon boiled. As the Azure Lotus Guard attacked, Karma bombarded Nanling and Changdo from above. Nanling and Changdo teleported away and attacked Lu Yin and the rest from the left and right. Lu Yin released the external pupil avatar. The crow-fixed body stared at Nanling, wanting to look at them in the eye. The Azure Lotus Guard raised his arm and guided Karma through heaven and earth. It turned into a city wall that became thicker and gradually spread. Nanling was cold and arrogant. The Feather God's spear shot out and pierced the city wall. Changdo also attacked from the other side with the Feather God's spear. This battle made humans full of grievances. A group of Eternal Realm experts were surrounded and attacked by two birds. Listening to their cheerful and mocking cries, Lu Yin's face became gloomier and gloomier. Master Qding and the rest wanted to break out of this situation, but they did not have the strength to do so. In the distance, the Blood Tower Guard rushed out but was stopped by the startled Gate Guard. Don't be impulsive. You will only be a burden if you go there. The Blood Tower Guard's eyes were red. He saw the human civilization climbing up, but there was still such a thing. God. Yes, the once invincible 9 bases was destroyed. Was the situation the same? Powerlessness, despair, and anger. That day the Xianling danced and mocked cheerfully. The same scene appeared again. Nanling looked up to the sky and screamed. It was wrong. It should not have destroyed the human civilization. It should have kept them alive and let them have hope. Then it destroyed that hope and watched them despair and helplessness. This was the perfect ending. Yes, there was nothing more satisfying than keeping them alive. Humans were Xianling's toys. In the distance, a pair of eyes also looked at them with laughter and mockery. It was Yulu. Ever since the Xianling and the Unknown started fighting, it had been staring at the 3 universes and had not participated in the battle. Even when the Xianling attacked the 3 universes, it did not participate in the battle because it had been severely injured before. It could not help much even if it participated in the battle and could easily die. Now that Nanling and Changdo were suppressing the human civilization, its cries seemed to be announcing victory. It could not help but look up to the sky and cry out to vent its grievances. Found it. Blue Lotus Guard suddenly shouted. His expression did not change and he did not make any unnecessary movements. Behind the left, half a year away, Lu Yin teleported and disappeared. He had finally found it. Actually, in the previous battle, he had seen Yulu once when he was looking for Nanling. However, Yulu had disappeared in a flash and did not stay in the same place, so he could not find it. Now, facing the suppression of Nanling and Changdo, Yulu could not help but come out. Dealing with Changdo was fake. Changdo was also an existence that conformed to the laws of the 2 universes. Its strength was not below Mingyu's, so it would be difficult to kill it. The real target was Yulu. The more passive they were, the more Yulu might appear. Nanling and Changdo did not care when they saw Lu Yin teleport away with the group. They were definitely going to win this battle, and the humans were not their match. They only cared about the karmic restraints, fun, and revenge. However, in the next moment, Nanling's expression changed. Not good. In the distance, Yulu stared blankly at Lu Yin, who had suddenly appeared. It wanted to teleport away, but it could not move. It had been watching Lu Yin's group the entire time, and the moment Lu Yin had appeared, it had subconsciously looked over as well. Furthermore, it had not encountered Crow Bind before, so it was now frozen in place. Lu Yin raised a hand and grabbed Yulu by the neck. Mixed hairy bird, I've caught you. Nanling appeared and its claws descended. Lu Yin grabbed Yulu and retreated. Human, you're courting death. Nanling shouted. She had not expected Yulu to be discovered. Idiot, she had clearly told it to hide in the shadows and keep an eye on them. She had not even allowed it to come out during the battle with the Unknown, but it had still been discovered. Changdo shot out a Feather God spear from another direction, forcing Lu Yin to release Yulu. Yulu was being held in Lu Yin's hand, and it had already broken free of Crow Bind. It immediately used 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations, splitting into 1,000 feathers. At the same time, the Green Lotus defense unleashed the treasured Lotus Mirror, also known as the 1,000 Fingers. The 1,000 Fingers could break the 1,000 Dao. In front of Yulu, the South Spirit descended. Its sharp claws bent and grabbed at the void, pressing down on the Green Lotus defense, giving Yulu a chance to escape. The Blue Lotus defense exhaled, and the Lotus treasured mirror suddenly shrank, forming a green lotus around it. The lotus was no longer the wheel of heaven but karma. It was formed by karma and the void was cut open, turning green. It did not matter whether Yu Lu died or not. What was important was Nanling. Yu Lu could escape, but Nanling would not be free. He had used Yu Lu as a bait to bury Nanling. The trap he set up was also a trap he set up for the Green Lotus ruler. Yu Lu teleported far away, escaping with its life. Qing Lian's lotus closed, and a red magma-like power surged out of the lotus, turning the green lotus into a greenish-red color, as if it had been born from a volcano. Lu Yin looked at this scene. Why did it seem so familiar? The sky turned dark red and Qing Lian closed its palms. Red Lotus Tomb. Lu Yin's eyes widened. Red Lotus Tomb? He recalled the scene that Senior Jianghu had seen in the past. That person had used the path of ruthlessness to seal himself and his loved ones, as well as the 3 immortal feathers. That was the Red Lotus Tomb, the tomb of the path of ruthlessness. This was created after hearing about the Red Lotus Tomb that Jianghu had seen in the past. It is not to kill the enemy but to fight for a chance of survival. Lu Yin, I'll leave Red Hero to you. I'll leave human civilization to you. Qing Lian looked at Nanling. It wanted to teleport but the void was isolated. It wanted to transform into 1,000 feathers, but all of them were within the Red Lotus. There was no way out. Was it mocking? Was it happy? A human spine would never bend. Even if they died they would hug you. Lu Yin's heart trembled and he shouted anxiously, Senior, you said that you would not perish together. It's not worth it. Qing Lian smiled. We did not perish together. When you are confident that you can kill Nanling one day, go to Karma Sea to comprehend karma. I'm not dead and neither is it. We're just fighting for a chance of survival. Don't hand us over to the unknown. Remember, Red Lotus Tomb closed completely, and it instantly turned into a dark red stone that fell into the starry sky, landing on a barren planet. Lu Yin stared blankly and was stunned. However, this was a battlefield and there was no room for him to be stunned. He took a deep breath. He took a deep look at Red Lotus Tomb and heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that Nanling was not dead. He could feel that this was not a killer move that destroyed its life force. It just prevented Nanling from attacking. Pinnacle Mobile Version Website. Chapter 4387. The Southern Spirit brought too much pressure to human civilization. Once it disappeared, only Changdo and Si Qin would be left. Senior, don't worry, this junior will definitely release you as soon as possible. Don't hand it over to the unknown? He had indeed thought of using the unknown reward mission in exchange for helping the Blue Lotus Lord out. However, since the Blue Lotus Lord had instructed him to do so, he could not do so. With a roar, Changdo charged toward the barren planet, intending to destroy the Red Lotus Tomb. Lu Yin teleported and chased after Nanling, not because he wanted to stop her. Since the Azure Lotus Shield was confident that it could seal him and Nanling, then it could not be easily destroyed. At the very least, Changdo would not be able to do such a thing. What Lu Yin wanted to do was to kill Changdo. Immortal Plume, an eye for an eye. He had killed Mud Blade to avenge the ancestor of the Mountain Sword sect. Now he wanted to kill Changdo to avenge the people who had died in front of him. The vengeance of the entire Xianling tribe came from the entire human civilization. Changdo's claw landed on the Red Lotus Tomb, but it was unable to destroy it. Beside it, the Feather God's spear pierced out and hit the Red Lotus Tomb with a bang, but it still could not penetrate it? No wonder even the South Spirit ancestor had been sealed. It wanted to continue attacking, but Lu Yin appeared behind it with the Golian in his hand. Golian slashed out horizontally and Changdo disappeared. Lu Yin turned around and struck out with a palm, causing a rainbow of divine power to pierce through the void and attack Changdo. Changdo shot out a Feather God spear that collided with the rainbow. The rainbow of godly power had been suppressed because of the battle with Nanling, and Changdo's strength was similar to Ming Yu's. He was an expert with 2 laws, and his strength was about the same as the 3-colored godly power transformation. As for Nanling, she could directly suppress the 3-colored godly power transformation. More and more Feather God spears descended upon Lu Yin like raindrops. Lu Yin teleported away. He had fought with Xianling many times. He rarely attacked with a large number of Feather God spears because he could teleport. Once he teleported away, the number of Feather God spears would be meaningless. However, Changdo's goal was not to defeat Lu Yin, but rather to force Lu Yin out of Red Lotus Tomb. Since it could not break through Red Lotus Tomb, then it would think of a way to take Lu Yin away. Even if it could not break through, Patriarch Bei Qing or even Patriarch Shangjing would be able to. Lu Yin saw through Changdo's intentions, and his external eye avatar appeared in front of him. 15 pieces of black armor blocked Changdo's attack, and the feather god's spear slammed into Changdo's body, causing a series of loud bangs to ring out. Lu Yin took the opportunity to grab Red Lotus Tomb and teleport away. Changdo roared angrily as it searched for Lu Yin. Far away, Lu Yin placed Honglianzhong back into Mount Supreme and looked at Changdo from afar. He teleported over and slashed down with Golian. Behind him, the triple firmament sword intent formed a river of sword Dao that poured down in torrents. Within the river of sword Dao was a Dao sword. Lu Yin wanted to fight Changdo and slaughter him. Changdo continued to teleport, and the sword river couldn't even touch it. In the blink of an eye, it appeared above Lu Yin's head and swiped down with its claws. Lu Yin struck out with his palm, causing his divine power to explode and forced Changdo back. Changdo teleported again and attacked Lu Yin from all directions. Human, release the southern spirit, or I'll slaughter your entire human civilization. Lu Yin's expression was still and he remained unmoved. His sword Dao river chased after Changdo, but Changdo casually tore it apart with a swipe of its claws. The Dao sword swept past, and its eyes went blank for a moment. Now was the time. Lu Yin took a step forward, and his withered body recovered as he stared at Changdo with his celestial eye. Changdo's pupils recovered, but because he had severed his karma, he could not immediately awaken. He subconsciously saw Lu Yin's Skynet and Crow immobilization. Not good, it remembered the power of the 10-eyed divine crow. Lu Yin took a few steps forward. He walked in front of Changdo and condensed his surging divine power between his palms. He pressed his palms together, and it was as if he was grabbing two dazzling suns. Si Qin. Changdo shrieked, and just as the palms were about to collide, a force pushed Changdo out of Crow immobilization's range. Boom. Blinding light illuminated the three universes, and the collision of divine power sent the surrounding void flying. Changdo had just been pushed out and hadn't moved very far before its body was sent flying by the divine power. Si Qin was also sent flying at the same time. Si Qin used a wing to block the divine power, but its body continued to fly backwards. Lu Yin suddenly appeared and grabbed at it. 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations. Si Qin split into 1,000 parts and Lu Yin's hand missed. He clenched his fists and a sense of helplessness filled his heart. It was clearly right in front of him, but he couldn't even grab it. This was the power of the immortal plume. In the distance, Si Qin appeared and stared at Lu Yin. She glanced at the wings and felt that such boundless divine power was definitely comparable to theirs. He was clearly just a scoundrel, damn it. On the other side, Changdo teleported away and reappeared. It also stared at Lu Yin in fear. It was very sure that Lu Yin wasn't its match, but where did that monstrous divine power come from? Coupled with the 10-eyed crow's power and strange physical strength, this human's foundation was somewhat unfathomable. Lu Yin panted heavily as sweat dripped down his forehead. The tricolored divine power made him extremely tired, but he couldn't show it now. Even without Nanling, they would have a hard time dealing with Si Qin and Changdo. As long as these two immortal plume didn't attack forcefully, they could use teleportation and 1,000 feathers, 1,000 transformations to exhaust the humans. In the Heaven's Origin universe, Mr. Mu and Jiang Feng had solemn expressions. Shueta Shangyu, Jingmen Shangyu, Grandmaster Qingqiao, Grandmaster Quding, and the others all experienced a difficult battle. They didn't expect that they would still be so powerless when the humans were growing stronger by the day. Moreover, their opponents were only 3 immortal plume. One could imagine how tragic it would have been for Jiolei at his peak to face the combined attacks of the immortal plume, the unknown, and the death universe. Other than Lu Yin, they realized that they couldn't interfere. The immortal plume's arrogance made them target all the eternal realm experts in the human civilization from the very beginning, which led to this outcome. Now, Si Qin and Changdo seemed to want to work together to defeat Lu Yin. Lu Yin could only teleport to avoid them. Dodging again and again made the 2 immortal plume impatient, and their attacks became heavier and heavier, affecting the lives of countless people. Helpless, Lu Yin could only take out the Red Lotus Tomb from Mount Supreme and place it in the middle of the other eternal realm experts. Go get it if you can. 1 Red Lotus Tomb, 1 Lu Yin, these were the targets that Lu Yin set for the 2 immortal plume. Only the Red Lotus Tomb could separate them, otherwise the 3 universes would be destroyed. At this moment, the consciousness universe had been rebooted. Because of the battle just now, Lu Yin didn't want the 3 universes to be rebooted too. Once it was rebooted, they wouldn't be able to stop it, and it would be a disaster for the entire human civilization. Si Qin, I'll deal with this human. You're more suited for that stone. Changdo suggested. Qin said, "Be careful, this human is very strange. It seems that Mingyu's disappearance isn't entirely because of that insect." Changdo's gaze was extremely cold. "I understand." Qin teleported and disappeared. Luyin reminded everyone. At this moment the battlefield was divided. One was Luyin against Changdo, and the other was Qin against the rest of the Eternal Realm experts. There were many Eternal Realm experts, but they had no advantage. They had no advantage over Qin, so all they could do was try their best to protect Red Lotus Tomb. This was their last resort, and as long as there was a way, Luyin would not use Red Lotus Tomb as bait. Otherwise, if it was snatched away, Luyin would never be able to make a name for himself. Fortunately, he also had insurance. The red umbrella opened above the Red Lotus Tomb. Xuanhuan didn't die, but he was severely injured and held the red umbrella with difficulty. He was surrounded by a circle of Eternal Realm experts, staring at the immortal plume that kept appearing and disappearing above his head. At this moment they seemed so helpless. Luyin retracted his gaze as Changdo closed his eyes and spoke in a cold voice. "I've never fought against your human civilization before, but I've heard a lot about you. Even during your most glorious era of the 9th base, you were irreplaceable. If I kill you, your civilization will never be able to recover." Luyin held the Golian tightly. "You think too much. Even if I die, the human civilization can still rise. Our civilization has a saying, a single spark can start a prairie fire." Changdo sneered. "Even the former 9 bases was defeated. What makes you think you can? You're just a lowly failed civilization." Luyin raised the Golian and pointed it at Changdo. "I can tear your beak apart." After that, he teleported behind Changdo. The Golian slashed down, but Changdo teleported away. The slash missed and Changdo's claws fell and grabbed at Luyin. Luyin dodged at the same time. Teleportation versus teleportation. The 3 universes flickered continuously, as if there were countless Luyin and Changdo at the same time. On the other side, Qin was also thinking of ways to snatch the Red Lotus Tomb, but it wasn't easy to snatch it. One was the red umbrella, which was definitely a weapon of the ruthless path. The other was the cauldron. It stared at the cauldron suspended above the Red Lotus Tomb. The cauldron made its heart palpitate, and it didn't want to have an accident like Nanling. Anyway, Changdo's strength could definitely suppress that human, so it wasn't in a hurry. The human civilization no longer had the power to resist, and the battle between the unknown race and its own race wasn't so easy to determine a winner. The ancestor had awakened and no one could interfere here. Even if someone wanted to, it would be Xianling. The planet shattered from Qin's power. Mr. Mu and the rest stood on the shattered planet, blocking Qin's attack. They didn't have time to care about Luyin's battle. Qin only needed a moment to take the Red Lotus Tomb away. This was a loss that the human race couldn't bear. The starry sky shattered, and Luyin used the Karma Sword and the Sword Dao River to slash Changdo. Changdo was afraid of the Karma Sword and didn't want to meet it head-on. It only used the Feather God Spear. Luyin used his godly power to attack the Feather God Spear, but Changdo's claws came straight at him. He was suppressed by Changdo just like in the previous battle with Mingyu. If not for the Immortal Master's internal sword, he wouldn't be Mingyu's match. Changdo's strength was about the same as Mingyu's. Luyin had already expended some energy before, so he was completely at a disadvantage now. Bang! There was a loud bang, and although the 15 pieces of armor wouldn't shatter, they were scattered. Luyin's eye power couldn't keep up, and he was suppressed by Changdo. Changdo discovered that even though the Feather God Spear could be blocked, the purple power supporting the external incarnation couldn't last much longer. Let's see how many more times you can block it. The tricolored godly power moved horizontally and cut through the void, but Changdo avoided it. It was more cautious than Mingyu and Mudblade, and it didn't collide with the godly power at all. Every time Luyin used his godly power, it was like a waste. He hadn't learned how to truly use his godly power. Using his godly power to meet his opponent head-on was advantageous for him, but Changdo didn't give him a chance. It was exhausting Luyin's strength. Whether it was his godly power, eye power, or physical strength, they would all be exhausted one day. Apex mobile version website. Chapter 4388. Time passed and Luyin panted heavily. His tricolored divine power had obviously weakened a lot, and his external pupil incarnation was also shaking. Changdo was arrogant, and its Feather God Spear stabbed at Luyin with undiminished power. Did this human really think that he could defeat it by relying on his rascal skills? Luyin teleported away. Trying to escape? A surging river descended from the void. Lu Yin looked up and his expression changed. The river of time? Changdu soared into the sky and disappeared into the river of time. In the starry sky it began to rain. It was the rain of time, and as it dripped down, it seemed to wash the universe's mirror clean of dirt, revealing the feather god spears that originally existed. Lu Yin was shocked. What is this? Human, you should be honored. This is the battle technique of my immortal feather inheritance, Time of the Long River. It is said that in the war that destroyed Ninth Base, many of you humans died under this technique. You should join them. After that, the feather god spears that were washed out by the time rain shot in the direction they had been stabbed. Lu Yin hurriedly teleported away, but no matter where he dodged, the feather god spears would descend. He was far away from the three universes and appeared outside the range of a 10-year eternal life realm expert. The feather god spears were still descending. They were not washed out by the river of time but by Changdu. With the condensation of the river of time, the number of feather god spears kept increasing. In other words, they kept appearing repeatedly. Lu Yin's teleportation distance was far less than Changdu's. Changdu's vision could not see as far as Lu Yin's, but because of the attack range brought by its own strength, it could sense Lu Yin's position and Lu Yin could not avoid it. In the battle with Mingyu did not use this battle technique, but Mingyu's true and false guardian was far more terrifying than this move. This was still a move that Changdu used to exhaust its own strength. It used teleportation because it knew that it could not hit Lu Yin. However, Lu Yin had to constantly teleport and escape. However, he escaped and the three universes were riddled with holes. Those feather god spears that were condensed by time repeatedly pierced the void. The three universes were on the verge of collapse. Mr. Mu was also affected and had to change his position. The feather god spears fell like rain, and a disaster fell upon the human civilization. Countless people wailed and blood dyed the earth red. Blood-colored smoke and dust rose from the sky, and the despair of countless people could be heard. Lu Yin gripped the Golian tightly as his body trembled. His fury had reached its peak, but he was also filled with a sense of helplessness. No matter how many tricks he had up his sleeves, they were all useless against Changdu's 1,000 feathers and 1,000 transformations. He hoped that there would be an environment where Changdu would not be able to escape, where he would have a chance to fight to the death. If it was not Changdu's death, then it would be his. Far away, the consciousness universe was collapsing and restarting. 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad 25, who was living in the consciousness universe, hurriedly escaped. He couldn't see what was happening at all. There seemed to be bird cries. In the direction of Tian Palace, the thatched hut was faintly discernible. At the top of a cliff, in a palace, the silhouette who had been sitting there for a very long time slowly opened his eyes. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the continent of the 9 clouds. Pillars. Lu Yin's eyes flashed with killing intent as he stared at Changdu. He watched as it proudly whined and his mind raced. What could he do to create an environment where he could kill the beast without letting it escape? What was the solution? Suddenly, his expression changed as he looked into the distance. Pillar child, can you hear me? Lu Yin's eyes twinkled as he heard a familiar and warm voice. It was the progenitor. Progenitor? Is that you? Child, it's been hard on you. At that moment, Lu Yin's eyes turned red. It had been hard on him? Indeed, his past experiences surfaced in his mind. He had fought again and again, slaughtered again and again. He had carried the banner of the human race and walked at the very front without any complaints or regrets. He had walked the line between life and death and struggled with his heart. He had never been weak against anyone, but the progenitor was different. He was the progenitor of the Xuanhuan universe, the progenitor of everyone. Progenitor, how are you? I can't leave yet. The restarting of this universe has awakened me. Child, listen to me. I see countless civilizations and feel the hearts of countless creatures. The universe is dark, but the hearts yearn for light. Civilizations don't interact with each other, but the essence of protection is communication. That is the meaning of all civilizations' existence. I can feel your heart. With a single thought, your heart, your consciousness, your physique, and everything that exists in the universe can be infinitely large. This is what the existence that I have merged with made me feel. With the help of this rebooted universe, you can fulfill your wish. Child, live on. None of us can be left behind. Lu Yin looked into the distance at the consciousness universe and smiled. Alright, not one of us can be left behind. Within the river of time, Changdu saw Lu Yin's smile. Was this human crazy? How could he smile at a time like this? Si Qin saw it as well and felt an inexplicable sense of unease. However, she did not know where this feeling came from. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed and she cried out, "Changdo, run!" Changdo was startled and instinctively tried to teleport away, but he did not move. What was going on? At that moment, countless people saw another universe appear. It was as if the starry sky had overlapped and descended between the three universes. It was restarting and surrounding Changdo. Exactly. It was the consciousness universe. The restarting universe had cut off Changdo's teleportation and prevented him from escaping. This was an extremely shocking scene. No one had expected such a thing to happen. How could a universe suddenly descend? Previously, they had only heard of universes being able to move, but they had never heard of a universe descending like this. Both Qin and Changdo were horrified. This was not a power that they could come into contact with. Could there be an even stronger existence in the human civilization? Lu Yin's gaze was as calm as still water. Was there no way to escape? Fine, then let's fight to the death. Let's see if your life or mine is tougher. He leapt into the shattered universe. This was the consciousness universe that was restarting. He did not know how the progenitor had done it, but he had actually moved an entire shattered universe to this place. This was probably not the progenitor's power, but rather the power of the Heavenly Guard. The consciousness universe had restarted more than once, and the Heavenly Guard had always been there. Senior, watch carefully. This junior will collect interest on behalf of the human civilization. Golian slay. Changdo turned around and stretched out its claws. Bang. Lu Yin's arms were suppressed by godly power, and he slammed them down. Changdo was ruthlessly pressed down and feather spears stabbed out. It could not teleport, but neither could Lu Yin. Human, no matter what is going on, you are doomed. The tricolored godly power enveloped Lu Yin's body, and the feather spears stabbed into his body, but they did not pierce through. The first time he had used the tricolored godly power transformation, he had used his godly power to resist the mud blade's slash. The mud blade had been compatible with the laws of the universe, and there was nothing it could not destroy. 2 slashes had broken Lan Meng's hanging coffin, but it had not been able to cut through his body. Later, in his battle with Mingyu, although his godly power could not resist the feather spears, it had destroyed the immortal plume origin tree, causing his body to transform. His strength had increased by several times, and his defenses had skyrocketed. This gave him the ability to resist Changdo and Mingyu's immortal plume spears, which were compatible with 2 laws of the universe. Although he could not block Nanling's feather spears, Changdo could not use them to defeat him. Just because he did not take them head-on did not mean that he could not. Changdo's body was pierced by the feather spears, and blood splattered across space. At the same time, Lu Yin slashed at Go Lien, and his vitality continuously flowed into Changdo's body. Changdo's sharp claws clawed at Lu Yin's face, and in front of him, the outer pupil incarnation's 15 pieces of black armor clashed. Lu Yin dodged to the side and grabbed Changdo's beak. His body withered and recovered, and his strength was constantly being absorbed. Changdo's sharp claws tore through the void, and countless void cracks appeared in front of Lu Yin's eyes. The consciousness universe was being rebooted, and this was an apocalyptic battle. Lu Yin's outer pupil incarnation moved to block the sharp claws, and his body soared into the sky. He leaped up and punched Changdo's head. Changdo's wings overturned the sky, and the aftermath was like a river that tore through the consciousness universe, but it was unable to overturn Lu Yin. Lu Yin's punch viciously smashed Changdo's wings, and the crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Changdo had not expected Lu Yin to be so strong. How could a scoundrel be so strong? Furthermore, he could withstand the feather spear's attacks. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Lu Yin took the opportunity to grab Changdo's beak. I said I would tear your beak apart. With a hiss, Changdo howled in anguish and retreated step by step. Its enraged screeches resounded through the heavens as the flesh around its beak was torn apart, and blood dyed its eyes red. Changdo's killing intent soared to the extreme, and the feather spears stabbed out in a frenzy as its sharp claws clawed out. Bang! Bang! The black armor plates blocked the attacks, and Lu Yin's body was pierced through one by one. The feather spears pierced through, and Lu Yin endured the pain as he turned around and slashed at the Golian. His right hand danced about while his left hand suppressed the Golian, and a tremendous force slashed through the Golian's blade. Changdo's claws brought along streaks of blood and darkness as they sliced through the heavens, splitting the collapsed consciousness universe into 2. In the distance, Qin, Mr. Mu and the rest watched in shock. Nobody retreated from this battle of flesh and blood. The most primitive slaughter was being carried out, and they had forgotten about battle techniques and innate gifts. There was nothing left but their instincts to fight like wild beasts. Splattering blood burned the void, and the consciousness universe rebooted even faster. Countless immortal substances fell down like snowflakes. That river of time had long since disappeared. Xiqin had originally thought that Changdou would have an advantage in this battle of flesh and blood with Lu Yin, but she soon realized that something was amiss. Although Lu Yin was bleeding, his strength had not weakened in the slightest, and he was constantly suppressing Changdou. One of Changdou's wings had almost been torn off, and even the hair on its head was gone. Changdou was in an extremely miserable state. It did not want to rush in as it could not teleport out. It did not know what was going on, but could it be that the human civilization still had some top powerhouse that had not made a move yet? Or was it unknown? Changdou remained on guard. It could not go in, so it could only shout, "Changdou, don't fight him to the death." Changdou shrieked and pushed Lu Yin away with all its might, its pupils constricting to the size of needles. The most disadvantageous condition for Changdou was that it could not look at Lu Yin. If it did, it would be easily immobilized and that would be the end of it. This human was actually so difficult to deal with. Was this the human civilization? Lu Yin charged out again, taking advantage of the fact that the consciousness universe had completely rebooted to kill this bird. Changdou retreated, not out of fear but because it felt that there was no need to fight this human. This human was fighting to the death, and it felt like this human was getting stronger and stronger. Something was wrong. Changdou wanted to rush out of this rebooted universe, but it had lost its teleportation. Its speed was not as fast as Lu Yin's, especially when Lu Yin released the starry sky in his heart and used Sirius. The stars shattered one by one, hindering Changdou's escape. Changdou turned around and an invisible force spread out. Apex mobile version website. Chapter 4389. Lu Yin felt that the starry sky around his heart was being affected, and he hurriedly retracted it. This was an invisible world and it had finally been activated. Whether it was Mud Blade, Bright Rain or Changdou, they would only use their trump cards when they were forced to a certain extent. If Changdou did not use his trump card, then no external force would be able to truly defeat him. Lu Yin had been waiting for this moment, but he did not know what kind of power Changdou's invisible world possessed. In the distance, Xiqin's eyes flickered. Changdou had used his full strength. She hadn't expected that he would have to use his full strength to deal with a scoundrel. It scanned its surroundings and was not in a hurry to snatch the Red Lotus tomb. If there was a hidden existence in the human civilization that could do such a thing, it would be difficult for it to leave. It had to think of a way. However, even if there was a hidden existence, it wouldn't be so easy to make a move. Otherwise, that human wouldn't have been sealed together with the southern spirit. Perhaps, like great ancestor Shangjing, he was unable to make a move. Mr. Mu and the rest were wary of Xiqin as they looked into the distance. That life and death battle had caused their hearts to palpitate. Xiqin had faith in Changdou and they had faith in Lu Yin as well. He had to win. They could have rushed into the consciousness universe to help Lu Yin, but Xiqin was still there. The only one who could help Lu Yin was Mr. Mu, who had broken through to the eternal realm on his own and combined with his stabilized artifact turbid treasure. Only then would he be able to injure Changdou. But once Mr. Mu left, the Red Lotus tomb would definitely be snatched away by Xiqin, and he would not be able to escape. Lu Yin could only rely on himself. The void cracked open and cracks rained down like rain. From time to time, lightning would sweep past, illuminating Lu Yin's face and Changdou's figure. Lu Yin slowly retreated, the formless pressure causing him to feel apprehensive. Changdou had already used his full strength, which meant that he was truly facing a fishing civilization creature that was compatible with two universal laws. Previously, the mud blade bent his body did not conform to the two laws. He only relied on the fact that he had collected two eternal life realms to become important weapons of civilization and possessed strength comparable to that of conforming to the two laws. On the other hand, Mingyu was a powerhouse who was truly compatible with two laws, but she had been defeated by Lu Yin's immortal body's internal Dao sword. Changdou was Lu Yin's true one-on-one battle against a powerhouse who was compatible with two laws. Such a powerhouse would definitely have a trump card that could turn the tables, even if Changdou hadn't lost to him. However, if this continued, Lu Yin was confident that he would be able to fight to the death. In terms of physical strength, it was still lacking. The triple firmament sword will slashed out, but it suddenly stopped in the void, unable to move in the starry sky. Lu Yin frowned and slashed at the triple firmament sword will again. This time it was much stronger than the previous attack, but it was still stuck. As for Changdo's invisible world, he couldn't understand it. Lu Yin clenched his fist, raised it, and blasted out with his god force. Just like the triple firmament sword intent, the divine power rainbow suddenly stopped, unable to move. This truly shocked Lu Yin. How could this be? If it wasn't time, could it be space? What was this invisible world? At that moment, the formless energy suddenly surged and swept past Lu Yin, spreading throughout the entire consciousness universe. To Changdo, the invisible world could cover the entire 3 universes, let alone just one universe. If the Azure Lotus Defender could do it, so could it? Lu Yin stopped moving. It wasn't that he couldn't move, but that he had a feeling that the moment he moved, there would be unpredictable consequences. The flesh on Changdo's head was still dripping with blood. He looked at Lu Yin with a sinister and ferocious gaze. Don't dare to move? If you don't move, how can you defeat me? Lu Yin stared at Changdo. How did this fellow's invisible world fit in with Chia's? The laws of the universe were the same? Chia's ultimate technique was the drum realm, which used sound to replace the stars. Once enveloped, any movement would cause the drum realm to explode. Even if the opponent didn't move, Chia could still rely on the laws of the universe to make the opponent move and cause the drum realm to explode. Back then, Lu Yin had used teleportation to escape the drum realm. Now, Changdo's technique was actually similar to the drum realm, but the drum realm used movement to cause an explosion. Changdo, on the other hand, used a different kind of energy that Lu Yin had yet to fully comprehend. Changdo moved, heading straight for Lu Yin. Lu Yin raised a brow. Chia had used the drum realm, but it couldn't even move. Changdo's technique was clearly much more powerful. Changdo continued to approach Lu Yin, but Lu Yin didn't dare act rashly. Instead, Changdo raised its sharp claws and slashed down. Lu Yin dodged, but in that instant his strength was drained. His expression changed as he could clearly feel his strength leaving him. No, it wasn't draining but rather being restrained. It was as if a rotating gear had been stuck, and his strength had been blocked by an invisible force. He couldn't use it. How could this be? At Changdo's side, the feather god's spear stabbed out. Lu Yin retreated once more, but every time he did so, a portion of his power would be held back. It wasn't just his power, even his celestial eye's power was being held back. His entire body felt like it was being held back by something, as if every step he took was an enemy of the entire universe. He suddenly stared at Changdo. I understand now. You used the power to stabilize space to form a lock, and any movement within space will destroy this lock. This lock is compatible with the laws of the universe, which in turn restricts the power within space. The more you struggle, the greater the restriction. Changdo's eyes flashed with mockery. Human, you're quite clever. This is called the Day of Cessation. Day of Cessation? Lu Yin's eyes flickered with fear. He was resisting Changdo's laws. The more he moved, the stronger the suppression. Was it like the starry sky? I didn't want to use this move against you, but since you've forced me into such a difficult situation, I'll slowly torture you to death. Your strength will be completely suppressed by the pressure of the entire universe. How long do you think those humans can endure? Changdo sneered. Lu Yin's eyes were gloomy. This beast wanted to torture him to force his master and the others to save him so that Siqing could snatch the Red Lotus tomb. In fact, his master and the others couldn't save him even if they came. No one could save him. This was a life and death battle between him and Changdo. Struggle. The more you struggle, the more you'll be suppressed. Changdo raised its sharp claws and clawed at Lu Yin, forcing him to escape. No matter how this universe appeared, it's restricting me? Wrong. This is a grave for you to bury yourself. Lu Yin spat out a mouthful of blood. Not only were the various powers in his body suppressed, but even his blood was also being suppressed. The sharp claws passed by and tore Lu Yin's body apart. Lu Yin was sent flying. Changdo descended upon him again, and the feather god's spears pierced him from above. Human, I'll cripple your limbs first. Let's see how long those humans can endure. In the distance, Mr. Mu and the others' expressions changed drastically. They couldn't help but want to rush out. Siqing's eyes swept over, looking extremely sinister. Lu Yin avoided most of the feather god's spears, but his body was still pierced by 2 of them. He fell like a blood-colored meteor. Changdo chased after him, its sharp claws descending as it closed in on Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked at Changdo and released his Karma Heavenly Dao. He condensed a Dao sword and slashed upwards. Changdo, the condensed feather god spears, slashed towards the Karma Heavenly Dao sword. The feather god spears circled around Lu Yin, forming a defensive field that didn't attack. As Changdo descended, they screeched. At the same time, the Karma Heavenly Dao sword continued to condense and revolved around Lu Yin, crashing into Changdo. The Feather God spears and the Karma Heavenly Dao sword completely covered Changdo and Lu Yin, causing those outside the consciousness universe to be unable to see them clearly. Human, this is the consequence of provoking me, Xianling, Changdo screeched proudly, and its sharp claws descended. The sharp claws pierced Lu Yin's abdomen, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Another claw descended, but it was blocked by the external pupil incarnation. Lu Yin's lips curled up and blood stained his clothes. Mixed hair bird, this is the consequence of provoking me, a human. Then, under Changdo's confused gaze, he grabbed the claw that had pierced into his body. His right hand held the Golian tightly as he slashed. Changdo sneered. Again. Under the stopped sun, your power is completely ineffective, and you can't hurt anyone. The Golian slashed at Changdo's claw. In the beginning, the battle in the consciousness universe had been able to tear through Changdo's body, including its claws. But now there wasn't even a scratch. Looking at Changdo's mocking sneer, Lu Yin also smiled happily. Golian, when things reach an extreme they can only move in the opposite direction. Whoosh, pure black flames rose up like flames, wrapping around the Golian and spreading towards Changdo's body. Changdo looked at the black flames, and an indescribable horror spread throughout its body. Bone language. Lu Yin's eyes widened. Sharp claws and bones pierced through skin and feathers, tearing apart Changdo's body. Changdo was shocked. Impossible, this is their power. Human you. Because it was too inconceivable, Changdo had forgotten about its celestial eye. The celestial eye met and Crow froze. In the surroundings, the feather god spears lost their power and fell off, but the Dao swords were still there. Lu Yin had also activated the Divine Seal Catalog, the Triple Firmament Sword Intent, and the Sword Dao River, which blocked out the gaze of those outside the consciousness universe. It also prevented Changdo's voice from spreading. He had been waiting for this moment. When things reach an extreme, they can only move in the opposite direction to the Golian, causing the power of deathly stillness to appear. When the power of vitality and deathly stillness reached a balance, the destructive power it brought was unparalleled. After using the bone language, Changdo's body contained the power of deathly stillness, which meant that this power could directly invade its body without damaging the surface. Godly power was destructive from the outside, but this power came from the inside out. The stopped sun could restrict Lu Yin's own power, including his blood and even his consciousness. However, the vitality came from the Golian, and the deathly stillness came from the vitality. This power could not be restricted, and even if it could be, it would only be restricted after it was used. However, once it was used, it would cause a fatal injury to Changdo. Changdo howled and its blood-stained feathers fell off. Around it, the consciousness universe restarted and space-time collided, bringing out countless immortal substances that accompanied the blood-stained feathers. Feather God spears stabbed at Lu Yin as Changdo struggled. Lu Yin grabbed one of Changdo's exposed bones and withdrew from the state of deathly stillness. Three-colored godly power coiled around it, and he exerted force. With a crack, the bone was torn apart and Changdo howled in pain. Its wings flapped towards Lu Yin, but they suddenly stopped. The bone spikes in its wings pierced through its skin, causing blood to drip onto Lu Yin's face. Lu Yin's gaze turned fierce, and he allowed the feather god spears to pierce his body. He grabbed Changdo and used his strength to pry open its bones again. In the void, they fought in an even more brutal and bloody battle. Every step they took dyed the heavens red, and the two fell from the sky. Si Qin sensed that something was wrong. Why was Changdo in a worse state? Mr. Mu and the others stared into the distance. Chapter 4390. With a horizontal slash, Changdo's body was cleaved into two. The lower half of his body fell off. What was worse was his feathers, his flesh and bones were separated. He let out a howl of despair. Si Qin subconsciously wanted to rush over. She could not wait any longer. Otherwise, once Changdo died and the southern spirit was sealed and returned to the immortal plume civilization, she would definitely be punished. However, it suddenly stopped. The sudden appearance of the consciousness universe made it fearful. Once it rushed in, it would lose the ability to teleport. If that human expert appeared, it would also die. Thinking of this, it suddenly turned its head to look at Mr. Mu and the others, its eyes flashing with determination. He teleported and disappeared. Be careful. Jiang Feng barked. He had been keeping an eye on Si Qin all this time, and her sudden disappearance meant that she had definitely come to attack them in an attempt to draw Lu Yin out. Sure enough, the zither appeared and feather spears descended from the sky, piercing toward everyone. Mr. Mu raised his cauldron to block the feather god's spear. No matter how strong the feather god's spear was, it couldn't break through the suppressing artifact turbid treasure. Qin stared at the universe of consciousness. Human watch. Within the consciousness universe, Lu Yin was holding onto Changdo's upper body. He was also in a miserable state, but he was in a much better state than Changdo. When he heard Qin's shout, he looked over. Qin charged down ferociously. Facing the attacks of Mr. Mu and the others, it did not dodge at all. All the attacks that hit it were useless. Its sharp claws grabbed the alarm gate upper protector. No matter how one looked at it, the alarm gate upper protector's aura was the weakest among the eternal realm. First, she was severely injured by the balance envoy's cutting edge. Then she was attacked by the South Spirit. She was already on the verge of collapse. The red umbrella was slanted, blocking in front of the startled gate xianxia. Qin teleported away and changed her target, grabbing at Mr. Mu. Mr. Mu waved his hand, and a time album and a cauldron appeared from the scene. Qin the third teleportation. This time, his goal was heaven shouldering immortality. It entered through the swamp of eternal life-bearer's space, and under everyone's shocked gazes, it pierced through eternal life-bearer's body and shattered him. It then soared into the sky and stared at Lu Yin from afar. Although he had teleported several times throughout the entire process, it was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it tore apart heaven carrying immortality. Heaven carrying immortality was originally good at defense, but at this moment, defense was meaningless. Beside heaven carrying eternal life, Bayu's face was deathly pale. If she was Qin's target just now, she would also die. No one could stop him. Within the consciousness universe, Lu Yin stared at Qin. Qin also looked at him from afar, but not at the celestial eye. Release Changdo or the next one to die will be an eternal. She was threatening him with the death of an eternal. Lu Yin loosened his grip, and Changdo hurriedly flew away in the direction of Qin. If it wanted to leave the consciousness universe, it would be able to teleport as long as it left this universe. It would definitely get its revenge. Lu Yin watched as Changdo flew out of the consciousness universe, and he took a step forward to chase after it. Qin shouted, "Humans, don't force me to kill you, immortal realm humans." Lu Yin remained unmoved, but he did not immediately chase after Changdo. Changdo was about to rush out of the consciousness universe. Once it did, it would immediately teleport back to the immortal plume origin tree and would not stop. Changdo looked back, the resentment in his eyes enough to drown out the starry sky. Lu Yin stared at Qin silently. There were only 3 seconds left before Changdo charged out. 1, 2. Qin stared fixedly at Lu Yin until the final second. Suddenly, right in front of Changdo, outside the consciousness universe, the cauldron appeared. Changdo was shocked and hurriedly stopped. At that moment, the universe trembled as Lu Yin struck out with his palm. His figure instantly expanded like a giant encompassing the universe. The power of belief crossed the starry sky and slammed into Changdo, slamming it into the cauldron and storing it inside. Even Qin had not expected this, let alone Changdo. Although she was staring at Lu Yin, she was also on guard against Mr. Mu and the others. She did not know why the cauldron had suddenly appeared and crossed such a great distance. She also did not expect Lu Yin to suddenly unleash such a strong power of belief. This person had been hiding a trick up his sleeve all this time, catching them off guard. The most puzzling thing was that Mr. Mu and the others were so far away from the boundary of the consciousness universe that an immortal realm cultivator could not suddenly appear, so how could the cauldron appear? Unless it was teleportation. Wait, a human? Right below the cauldron, a figure appeared in Qin's eyes. It was Lu Yuan. Lu Yin was not the only human who could teleport, but he had teleported the furthest and was also the strongest, which was why Xianling had thought that he was the only one who could teleport. In reality, the first person to comprehend teleportation was Patriarch Lu Yuan. It was precisely because of Patriarch Lu Yuan that Lu Yin was able to awaken this innate gift. Although Patriarch Lu Yuan's strength had not reached the immortal realm, teleportation had nothing to do with strength. As long as he could see something, he could teleport there. Lu Yin had deduced the mirror beam technique and attached it to himself while also giving Patriarch Lu Yuan a copy so that he could use it at a critical moment. This time he finally used it. Patriarch Lu Yuan carried the cauldron and teleported right in front of Changdo. Changdo was too injured and anxious to leave the consciousness universe, so he could not react in time and was stored inside the cauldron. It gave off the feeling that he was waiting for an opportunity. After storing Changdo in the cauldron, Lu Yuan teleported again and returned to Mr. Mu and the others. Chang Do wanted to escape from the cauldron. However, he was suppressed by the cauldron's suppressive force. Teleportation was ineffective as the cauldron isolated him from the outside. At his peak, Chang Do would definitely be able to escape, but now, Xiqin teleported and disappeared, charging towards Mr. Mu and the others. Humans, you are too despicable. The red umbrella rose into the air as Xuanhuan resisted the urge to vomit blood and crashed into Xiqin. Xiqin's claws hit the red umbrella and knocked Xuanhuan unconscious. The red umbrella retracted. The next moment, it clawed at Mr. Mu. At this moment, Lu Yin also left the consciousness universe and appeared instantly. He bombarded Xiqin with his divine power. With a bang, Xiqin was knocked back. Its pupils shrunk to the size of a needle as it stared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin stood in front of Mr. Mu and the others. Blood flowed continuously and his aura was extremely weak. However, he still smiled as he stared at Xiqin. Mixed-haired bird, look carefully. The next one will be you. As he spoke, he pressed his hand on the cauldron and poured his divine power into it. He wanted to refine Chang Do. Mr. Mu took a deep breath and followed the laws of the universe. Suppress. He cooperated with Lu Yin to refine Chang Do. Xiqin shouted, "Humans, you are courting death. It is you who are courting death." Lu Yin roared and looked at Xiqin without fear. "You mixed-haired birds, if one comes I will kill one. If two come I will kill two. Let's see how many you can have." He also wanted to use Chang Do to increase his karma. However, if he brought Chang Do out, it might escape. Moreover, if he did not refine Chang Do, how could he intimidate Xiqin? Xiqin's strength was above Chang Do. Lu Yin really did not have the ability to kill this immortal plume. However, Xiqin was also extremely fearful at this moment. The sudden appearance of the consciousness universe made it believe that there was a hidden expert among the humans. In addition, with Lu Yin and the other strong cultivators watching, it could not snatch the Red Lotus tomb. It could not snatch Chang Do back. Seeing Chang Do howling and being crushed and refined continuously, fear emerged in its heart. It did not want this to happen. It was too miserable. Chang Do's miserable state kept replaying in its mind. In front of its eyes, inside the cauldron, blood was boiling, magnifying its fear. Teleportation made the immortal plume arrogant. It thought that it would not die, but in reality, it was constantly losing immortal plume. It took a lot of effort to replenish it. The death of each immortal plume was almost invisible. Most of them did not die on the battlefield, but in the place after teleportation. As a result, death was unfamiliar to the immortal plume. The more unfamiliar it was, the more fearful it was. Seeing Chang Do being refined with its own eyes was a huge shock to Xiqin. Creatures like the immortal plume were so talented that they did not experience as much as creatures with less talent when they reached the realm of immortality. Life and death were magnified in the immortal plume's heart. Xiqin's eyes flickered as it stared at the cauldron. Its voice was extremely low. "Humans, release Chang Do and Nanling. I can guarantee that the immortal plume will not attack you again." Lu Yin and the others looked at Xiqin coldly. There was no hesitation in their eyes. Humans rose from blood and fire. Their willpower was firm. Although they were afraid of death, looking at the entire civilization, they would rather die standing than live kneeling. This was especially true when facing mortal enemies like the immortal plume. They would kill as many as they could. Kill until they were terrified and did not dare to attack. The initiative should never be taken by others. "Humans, do you really want to fight me to the death?" Xiqin screamed, wanting to threaten them. Lu Yin stared coldly at Xiqin. "Mixed-haired bird, do you know how we humans have survived since the ancient times? We hunt. We catch wild beasts and birds." "What? Since when can prey threaten the hunter?" Behind them, Ba Yu looked at Lu Yin's back. At this moment, Lu Yin was very unfamiliar and very tall. Time continued to pass. There was no longer any sound of Chang Do in the cauldron. Outside the cauldron, there was boiling vitality and many eternal substances. If one looked at it from above, there was a glaring light flowing in the cauldron. It was Chang Do's flesh and blood that had been refined. Mr. Mu looked at the cauldron. The ninth wall is a turbid treasure. It has refined the immortal plume. It can be considered a consolation to the ancestors. Shui Pagoda, you said, this is only the first. It will not be the last. Lu Yin grabbed the cauldron and slowly turned it. The light inside was like flowing water. It swayed and made Xiqin dizzy. It was frightened and a chill went straight to its head. It teleported and disappeared. There was no need to stay. Chang Do was dead and Nanling was sealed. Without the immortal plume's support, It did not think that it could defeat the human civilization. Lu Yin alone was not something it could easily deal with. Lu Yin heaved a sigh of relief and almost fell. Fortunately, Ancestor Lu Yuan caught him. "Little Seven, how is it?" Lu Yin waved his hand. "I'm going to the Mirage Domain. It will be quick." With that, he teleported and disappeared. Everyone was vigilant to prevent the immortal plume from appearing again. At the same time, in the immortal plume tree, the battle was intense. Xiqin returned and went straight into the tree. Then, a monstrous anger resounded, shaking the universe. Bei Qing and the other immortal plume retreated. They did not understand what had happened. He, the old man and the others also retreated and confronted the immortal plume. "Aren't those the immortal plume that attacked the human civilization? Why are they back? And there's only one?" De Mao was puzzled. The old man laughed. "It won't be a crushing defeat, right? Impossible. The human civilization has the number of immortal realm experts. There are many of them, but it's impossible to stop 3 immortal plume," Mao said. "No, there are 4. There's still one hidden." This was Che, his voice calm. From his tone, it seems that the old man is very angry. 8 colors, what exactly happened? Pinnacle mobile version website. Chapter 4391. Small doors appeared beside the unknown beings and 8 colors' voice sounded. Human civilizations Qing Lian and Nanling were sealed at the same time. Changdo was refined to death, Yulu escaped and Xiqin returned. That one sentence made the unknown beings fall silent. That human civilization could actually do such a thing? Not only did they not lose against 3 immortal feathers, but they even killed one. It was unbelievable. One had to know that Nanling, Xiqin and Changdo were all existences that fit the laws of the universe. They were ranked in the middle of the 10 feathers, especially Nanling, who was second only to Tell the Sky and Bei Qing. How could they be sealed? Human civilization's growth exceeded their expectations. That's not good. Human civilization defeated 3 immortal feathers. It means that even if we attack, we won't be able to win. 8 colors, how long has it been since Lu Yin joined? More than 1,200 years. In just over 1,200 years, the human civilization has been brought to such heights. How terrifying. I'm panicking. I'm panicking too. The universe shook again. A towering immortal feather flew out from the immortal feather tree. As its wings flapped, heaven and earth swayed. The pressure it brought made the unknown beings retreat. How exaggerated. Shangjing, what a terrifying old monster. Just an old fart. I didn't expect it to still be alive. Retreat a little more. Give it some face. Specks of white starlight descended like a curtain, blocking the path ahead of the group of unknown beings. What followed closely were endless phantoms of portals. In an instant they covered the entire universe. No one could clearly see how far they were. This was the world of the door. The unknown white knew the origin of the unknown doors. White, don't interfere. This is my fault. The grudge between the immortal feathers and human civilization. Shangjing was furious. His aura surged as he wanted to suppress the starry sky. Opposite him, the white starlight flickered and said gently, "The human civilization you speak of is the one I promised to protect for 2,000 years. That's human civilization. Don't forget, the descendants of Jiolei, your unknown enemy." Shangjing was furious. "You don't have to repeat yourself. I don't know how to keep my promise. If I say 2,000 years, it means 2,000 years. Do you really want to go against me? This is war. You're courting death. You can try." When his voice fell, doors vaguely appeared around the immortal feathers one after another. This made all of the immortal feathers uneasy. Even an expert like Bei Qing couldn't break free, so how was this possible? He wondered what level White had reached. Even it was like this? The starry sky was silent. No one spoke. This silence did not last for long. As the countless fragments of sharpness around the immortal plume tree rose into the air, it attracted the attention of both sides. It was a fragment of the transparent sword. Previously, the transparent unknowable had used this sword to stab into the immortal plume tree, but it had been dragged away by Baotian, who had been prepared for it. The transparent sword had also shattered, but Lu Yin had used the tricolored godly power transformation to use the transparent sword to destroy the immortal plume tree, which had led to the awakening of Shangjing. Shangjing had awakened and Lu Yin had run away. The transparent sword in Lu Yin's hand had shattered even more due to the destruction of the immortal plume origin tree. It scattered across the starry sky like glass shards, and no one paid any attention to it. At this moment, these dreg-like transparent sword fragments rose into the air and gradually condensed back into swords. This scene shocked the immortal plumes. Bei Qing was overwhelmed with shock. That was impossible. The transparent sword was like this, which meant that the unknown master of balance had returned. Could it be that the heavens had lost? Lost? On the unknown's side, they all stared at the transparent sword. It was impossible to tell what they were thinking, but it was obvious that the scales of victory were tilting towards the unknowns. The eight-colored godly power still did not appear. Only a voice came from a small door. Xianling Baotian, life and death unknown. The master of balance has returned. These words confirmed the result of the battle between the master of balance and Baotian. It pushed Xianling Baotian into the abyss and sent chills down the unknown's spines. They were well aware of Baotian's strength. At the beginning, they had given Lu Yin a 5-star mission reward to seal Baotian and prevent him from coming out. In their minds, Baotian had once been Xianling Baotian's strongest expert. Now this strongest expert had been defeated, life and death unknown. The unknown master of balance had returned safely. The gap between Xianling Baotian and the unknowns was widening. In addition to the losses of Nanling and Changdou, as well as Mingyu's losses in the previous battle, it was obvious that Xianling Baotian had lost this battle between civilizations. However, this result might not be what all creatures wanted to see, even if the unknowns themselves did not know. Shangjing's aura suddenly disappeared, and the surging pressure receded like the tide. His voice became much gentler. I thought it was a trap, but I buried myself. Baotian's fate was his own. He overestimated himself and can't blame anyone else. At the same time, congratulations to the unknowns. This master of balance has been well chosen. The unknowns did not reply. Shangjing raised his head and looked at the transparent sword. Can you tell me, is Baotian dead or alive? A calm voice came out. He escaped, life and death unknown. Shangjing's gaze was deep. He escaped without even returning home. Looks like he's not far from death. On the opposite side, the old man chuckled. 10 feathers including the hidden you, a total of 11. How many are left? Shangjing said in a low voice, we lost this battle. There's nothing to say, but even if there's only one left, the unknowns will have to risk their lives if they want to devour us. 8 colors spoke to the immortal feathers for the first time on this battlefield. After this battle, as long as the immortal feathers don't start a war, the unknowns can let go. There was no objection from the unknowns. Letting go meant letting go of the immortal feathers and also letting go of themselves. If they really fought with their lives on the line, no one could guarantee that they would survive until the end. Moreover, both sides were increasing the karmic restraint. The immortal feathers could sleep with the dream of 1,000 years, but what about the unknowns? This was also the reason why not a single immortal feather died on the battlefield. The unknowns were all retreating. They only sought stability and victory, not slaughter. Speaking of which, the greatest achievement of this battle, other than defeating the Master of Balance, was Lu Yin. Whether it was blocking Baotian or destroying the immortal feather tree, they were all done by him. Mingyu and Changdou died in his hands, and the sealing of the Southern Spirit and Qinglian Shangyu was also related to him. After fighting for so long, everyone was tired. Although it was not long, it was more tiring than any other battle. Both sides did not speak anymore. Shangjing slowly sank into the immortal feather tree. Si Qin could not help but ask, what about the Southern Spirit? It's not dead, it's just sealed. Shangjing opened his mouth. His tone was terrifyingly calm. The unknowns are watching. We can't take it away, but it's not easy to kill it. There will be a chance. In the end, humans are trapped in their own cocoons. Si Qin was silent. There was something it did not say. What if the human civilization handed the Southern Spirit to the unknowns? If it could think of it, so could the Shangjing ancestor. Since it did not say it, there was no need to ask. The unknowns are treating themselves as the masters. Did they really think that they could achieve glory in the world? Even the 9th base was defeated. The unknowns won't last long. With that, Shangjing fell into a deep sleep. Bei Qing, Si Qin, Yu Ting, and the other immortal feathers also slowly retracted their auras. Their bodies were covered in gray, and the dream of 1,000 years condensed. Once they fell into a deep sleep, it was equivalent to giving up on the battle. Yulu returned and vigilantly glanced at the unknowns in the distance. It also slowly fell asleep in the dream of 1,000 years. This battle originally started with it, but the immortal feathers had suffered greatly and it had almost died. At this point it saw some problems. Perhaps they had been led by the nose from the beginning. It stared at the human universe, but its body was cut in half by the unknowns. It came back to complain to the southern spirit, hoping to be protected and avenged by the immortal feathers. Just as it wished, the immortal feathers woke up one by one and started this battle. Before the battle, Yulu pretended to be in a deep sleep to lure the unknowns to attack and create a chance to fight the Master of Balance alone. This was Yulu's confidence, but the result was this. Now, looking at it from another perspective, this was an opportunity created by the Master of Balance. From that sword to the end of the battle, Yulu did not know whether Yulu was dead or alive. Everything was in someone else's plan. Around Yulu, the gray color gradually condensed. The starry sky became smaller and smaller until finally, it disappeared and fell into a deep sleep. This time the immortal feathers admitted defeat. When Lu Yin saw the dream of 1,000 years sleeping on the crown of the immortal feather tree with his own eyes, he was completely relieved. Beside him, the 8-colored voice came from the small door. The immortal feathers suffered great losses this time. They won't start another battle in the short term. The unknowns promise to protect you, and the human civilization will not change for 2,000 years. Lu Yin looked into the distance. Protect for 2,000 years? It was true. This time, if not for the unknowns, the human civilization would have been destroyed. They would not have been able to withstand the immortal feathers' attack. But why did the immortal feathers attack the human civilization? Perhaps it was related to him capturing Mingyu and destroying the immortal feather tree. If this was the reason for the immortal feathers to attack the human civilization would be implicated by the unknowns. But Lu Yin thought of Yulu instead. When the battle started, Yulu was not at the immortal feather tree nor in Nolis. Instead, she appeared in the 3 universes. What was the reason? Could it be that she was targeting the 3 universes? If that was the case, then the immortal feathers' attack on the human civilization might not be related to this battle. It could even be that the origin of this battle came from Yulu. Lu Yin exhaled. No matter what the reason was, this battle was over. The immortal feathers did not even take away the Red Lotus tomb and allowed the southern spirit to be trapped. This was equivalent to handing the southern spirit over to them. This battle was indeed a huge blow to them. How many immortal feathers are left? Lu Yin asked. The 8-colored voice said, excluding the unknown Yulu and the sealed southern spirit, there are 7 left. Lu Yin frowned. 7 was still difficult to deal with. At first, he thought that there were only 10 immortal feathers. Xianxia did not count. However, it was not easy to deal with an additional immortal feather, let alone Xianxia. Although Yulu and the southern spirit were gone, more than half of the remaining immortal feathers had reached the strength of 2 universes. Xianxia in particular was unfathomable. He wanted to take the opportunity to destroy the immortal feathers, but he knew that it was impossible. The unknowns allowed the immortal feathers to sleep. The battle was over, but they did not want to fight. They could not start another war. The human civilization could not withstand the immortal feathers' attack. He teleported and disappeared. It was time to go back and deal with the aftermath. On the spot, the 8-colored door also disappeared. After this battle, the unknowns had a clearer understanding of Lu Yin. Although this person was not in the eternal realm, his strength was extremely strong. He was so strong that he could stand on equal footing with any of the unknowns. Chapter 4392. People from the Xuanhuan universe, the spiritualized universe, and the 9th heaven universe had all died from Xianling's attacks. Many of them had died on a large scale. Planets had shattered, regions had collapsed, mountains and rivers had turned upside down, and the starry sky had been overturned. The number of people who had died was uncountable. Lu Yin stood in the sky and silently closed his eyes. All the cultivators gathered at the bottom of the sky stairwell. There were many cultivators from the 9th heaven universe and the spiritualized universe among them. Everyone was mourning. Rain fell from the sky. It came from the starry sky as if the civilizations were crying. The 3 universes were silent. Countless people were mourning. Many people did not even have the chance to mourn. It was normal for a civilization to die while cultivating. However, this was a war between civilizations, especially a war with Xianling, their archenemy. The universe is vast and boundless. Human civilization is just a drop in the ocean. To the countless lives in the universe, the survival of humans has nothing to do with them, Lu Yin said slowly. His voice spread throughout the universe, to the spiritualized universe, to the 9th heaven universe, and to the universe of consciousness that had been restored but had also been reactivated. They don't care, but we do. We care about ourselves, our family, our friends, our heritage, and our homeland. Lu Yin looked down at the world. The more we care, the more we have to fight. We have to fight against the countless civilizations that want to destroy us. We have to fight against the massacre in the starry sky. Anyone can die and so can I. However, death cannot stop the continuation of our civilization. It is not only the continuation of our lives, but also the continuation of our spirits. It's the fighting spirit of the living and the unyielding spirit of the dead. No one will die in vain. Luck and opportunity are all guided by them. In the universe, every star that is lit up is because of their help. We will guide the way. We will not be defeated. We will not be destroyed. No one can destroy us. Countless people listened to Lu Yin's words and slowly raised their heads to look at the towering figure. He had been at the forefront of every battle, and he had carried everyone on his shoulders in every struggle of life and death. He was the lighthouse of human civilization, the person who had truly guided them in the right direction. I, Lu Yin, cannot guarantee that you will survive the war between civilizations, but I can guarantee that your spirits will never perish. You will live with heroism. You will die with heroism. If human civilization is completely destroyed one day, I, Lu Yin, will accompany you and disappear from the universe completely, never to leave a trace. However, I will not allow that day to come. Whoever wants to destroy us will have to be prepared to be destroyed together with us. There will be no exceptions. I can't see how high that starry sky is, but no matter how high it is, I can still pull it down. His eyes widened as he looked at the entire human civilization. In my name, step upon the stars. Countless people shouted excitedly, in my name, step on the starry sky. In my name, I shall tread the starry sky. In my name, I shall tread the starry sky. Lu Yin stood high up in the sky and took out the heavily injured Mingyu from Mount Supreme and threw her to the ground. At the bottom of the heaven stairway, Mingyu fell and blood spread along the ground. Countless gazes were fixated on that spot. Many human enemies had been executed before, and now it was Xianling's turn. Mingyu's injuries were too severe, and she had already fainted. She had to faint, or else it would be very easy for her to use instant movement and 1,000 feathers and 1,000 transformations to escape. Even if there was only a slight possibility, she could not take the risk. Lu Yin had already used it to increase his karma in the Mirage domain, and now it was time to deal with it. It's called Mingyu, and it comes from Xianling. Xianling is the civilization that caused great harm to our human civilization this time. It was also one of the mortal enemies of our human civilization. It slaughtered the powerhouses of our civilization and wrote an extremely humiliating chapter for our human civilization. It's an eternal realm that conforms to the laws of the two universes. Today I will use it to pay tribute to those who died in this battle and comfort their souls in heaven. Lu Yin took out Go Lian and slashed. The blade fell and Mingyu's body was cut in half. Her head flew out, shocking countless people. Xianling, an eternal realm expert from a fishing civilization, died just like that. This wasn't an ordinary eternal realm expert, but a terrifying existence that conformed to the laws of the two universes. In the current human civilization, only Qing Lianyu could reach this level. In other words, Lu Yin had executed a top expert whose strength was similar to Qing Lianyu. This scene shocked even Shueta Xiangyu and Jingmen Xiangyu. Even though they had seen Changdou being refined before, that was a battlefield. Today it was an execution. Once this matter spread to Xianling, it would definitely incur Xianling's wrath. Lu Yin didn't care. The human civilization and Xianling were mortal enemies. Would Xianling stop being hostile to the human civilization after letting Mingyu go? Impossible. Their hatred could never be resolved. Qing Lianyu had never forgotten. His move was called Red Lotus Tomb. The hatred engraved in his bones could never be forgotten. Even if Xianling wanted to resolve the grudge, the human race wouldn't agree. Otherwise, how could they face their ancestors? Mingyu was killed. Light illuminated the starry sky and dispelled the darkness. Countless people seemed to hear the horn of counterattack. Lu Yin was enveloped in light like a god. Everyone looked at him with fanatical worship. Respect. They believed that as long as Lu Yin was around, the human civilization would not decline. He was the symbol of this era. In addition to paying tribute to the dead, the death of the heaven-bearing immortal also made people's hearts heavy. Although it wasn't an eternal realm expert and had given up on its own civilization to protect itself, it had still contributed to the human civilization. If it wasn't for its Kylie, more people would have died. What a pity. Other than Mingyu, there was also the eternal realm flying bird that had been captured by Xianling. It had also died after increasing Lu Yin's karma. There was no need to keep it. Not long after, Lu Yin teleported into the consciousness universe. This universe was currently rebooting and would take a long time. He stood outside the thatched house in xianxia, wanting to enter to find the ancestor. "Child, there's no need to come in. I'm going to sleep again." This was the ancestor's voice. Luin was stunned. "Senior, you? What I'm seeing now is like a dream. I don't know when I'll wake up. Child, I know your pain. Go back and rest well. If you can't hold on one day, just protect yourself. No one will blame you. Child, treat yourself well and live well." Luin looked at the thatched house deeply and nodded. He took a deep breath and turned to leave. Luin had arrived. Half a year had passed since Mingyu's execution, and he had already recovered. His injuries had already healed in the Mirage domain, but his energy wasn't so easy to recover. It took him half a year to recuperate. "Is anyone here? I'm back," Luin shouted as soon as he arrived. Knowing Trace immediately became lively, and even the divine tree seemed to sway. You're getting more and more impolite." This was Demao. Luin smiled. "Demao, why are you here every time I come to knowing Trace? Don't you have anything to do? Do I need to explain anything to you? You're not waiting for me, are you? Kid, don't think too highly of yourself." Demao was unhappy. Kid, your performance in the battle with Xianling was quite good. You played a decisive role. Impressive." The old man with the chuckle spoke. Luin said, "I didn't do anything. I was just doing my best to complete the task given to me by the unknown. Heaven and earth can bear witness to my feelings for the unknown." "You're quite quick to slip away." Luin raised his brows. "Oh, that's Air Mao, right? Speaking of which, you're actually a shield. What's going on? Can a shield become a spirit?" "Luin, don't break the rules," Air Mao reprimanded. Luin laughed. "Others don't know that you're a shield? Interesting. This shield is not an ordinary shield. Kid, are you interested?" Demao asked with a smile. Luin asked back, "Would you tell me if I was interested?" "Possibly." "Haha." Air Mao said in a low voice, "Swordmaster, don't force me to cut down all your mother trees." "You can try." Demao was not afraid. Luin was interested. "Demao, you still have mother trees?" "Haha, it has quite a few." Lu Yin's eyes flickered. The importance of the green light was increasing. It could transform his body and allow him to withstand more divine power. It could also break free from the control of the ten-eyed crow's innate gift. The scene he saw when he destroyed the immortal plume tree was even more unimaginable. He wanted the green light now. How could he get it from Demao? He had to use his brain. He knew it. Demao had been collecting mother trees for so many years. It was impossible for him to have so few. "Speaking of which, kid, that worm you recommended is quite strong. His strength is passable. He passed the test and joined the unknown in such a short time." The old man with the chuckle laughed. Luin was surprised. "Immortal Master passed the test? I don't know." Demao was disdainful. "As long as he's not as annoying as you." Luin laughed. "Demao, our relationship cannot be replaced by others." "What do you mean?" Demao felt inexplicably uneasy. Lu Yin's tone had suddenly changed. It had become gentle. "Nothing. I just mean that our relationship is good. Look, our cooperation is very close. Red Hero knows this very well." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Then why don't we meet? How about the Red Coat civilization under the stars?" Sure. If you want to go, I'll accompany you." "You're too polite." Demao choked and did not know how to reply. Inside a hanging coffin, the immortal master listened quietly. Luin spoke to the other unknowns as equals. The other unknowns also spoke to him with respect. It was completely different from how they spoke to him. He was clearly just a scoundrel, but he received all the unknowns' respect. Regardless of friend or foe, they respected strength. It was strength that he had gained through fighting. It did not intend to interrupt. It knew where to go, so it spoke cautiously. It had passed the test a few months ago. After so many years of using Luo Chan's teleportation, it knew many civilizations. It was not difficult to use one civilization to destroy another. 8 colors asked it to worship the divine tree and choose a color. It had delayed. The reason was that it had been injured in the battle with Xianling. It had deliberately delayed. It had always remembered Lu Yin's words. It always felt that it could offend the other unknowns, but it could not offend Lu Yin. This human was sinister and cunning, but he had many tricks up his sleeve. In a desperate situation he could form alliances. It was too terrifying. Moreover, it did not know whether it still had path swords in its body. Pinnacle mobile version website. Chapter 4393. The Divine Master thought about it. When he completed the unknown mission, he would ask 8 colors to check if there was a path sword. Divine Master, are you there? Answer me. Luin called out to it. The Divine Master hesitated. Should he answer? Talking in this kind of atmosphere did not match its personality. Yes. It still spoke. Luin smiled. Come, say hello to everyone. The Divine Master was speechless. He, Divine Master, right? You betrayed Xianling and joined the unknown just like Red Hero. You have to be careful, those strange birds are hard to deal with. Demao tried to scare him. Luin was disdainful. Demao, don't scare people. The Divine Master's strength might not be below yours. Is that so? Demao obviously did not believe him. He welcomed Divine Master. The Divine Master was silent. These unknowns were very strong. They had joined forces with Lan Meng to fight against the human civilization. Now that Lan Meng was gone, they were definitely dead. It was just that they did not know how they died. The migrating Silver Sky Army was also finished. It had fought against them before. The stronger the unknowns, the more unfathomable they were. Not long after, Zhizong quieted down. Luin asked 8 colors about the reward. You currently have a 6 stars mission reward, 2 5 stars mission rewards, 1 4 stars mission reward, and 1 2 stars mission reward, 8 colors replied. Killing on the battlefield was a duty for creatures that joined the unknowns. They would not be rewarded. Only special missions had rewards. For example, Lu Yin's 6 stars mission reward came from destroying the immortal plume tree. This was the highest reward Lu Yin could get so far. If not for the fact that it was impossible on the battlefield because the 5 stars mission was to destroy the fishing civilization, he would not have the strength to do so. As for the 6 stars mission, he did not even know what it was. Destroying the immortal plume tree was also due to luck. If not for the Divine Master, he would not have been able to defeat Mingyu. If not for the transparent and unknown broken sword, he would not have been able to split the immortal plume tree. If this was the case on the battlefield, one could only imagine how difficult it was to complete a 6 stars mission outside the battlefield. There were so many mission rewards. Some came from the Mudwater Kingdom War, but most came from the Immortal Plume Civilization War. Please choose your reward, 8 colors said. He really wanted to use the reward to deal with the South Spirit and release the Azure Lotus Emperor. He believed that a 5-star mission's reward would definitely be enough. However, before Qing Lianyu and the Southern Spirit were sealed, he had said that he absolutely could not hand him over to the unknown. This caused Lu Yin to hesitate. He believed that the Chancellor of the Blue Lotus would definitely think that he would use the reward to exchange for the unknown help. Since he still said this, it was obvious that he did not want him to do so. Lu Yin thought about it for a moment, but eventually decided against it. He had his reasons for using the Azure Lotus Shield. There were so many rewards. Let's exchange them one by one. He remembered that Ba Se had once said that the unknown knowledge of human civilization corresponded to 2-star mission rewards, 5-star mission rewards, and 6 stars mission rewards. In that case, he would first use the 2-star mission rewards to exchange for it. Corresponding to the reward of a 2-star mission, then the human civilization was definitely not strong, not even comparable to the former Ninth Heaven universe, but there should be Eternal Realm, or the corresponding Eternal Realm in the unknown threat perception. After all, there was also a 2-star mission. Regardless of whether that human civilization would be of help to the 3 universes, humans were humans. He needed to search for them. I will use the 2-star mission reward to exchange for the location of the human civilization, Lu Yin said. There was a mountain sword sect in the Mud Kingdom War. It was almost equivalent to the reward of a 2-star mission. Now that he had brought the people of the mountain sword sect back, it could not be used as a reward. So if he could really exchange for it, it meant that there were other unknown locations of human civilizations. Yes, the sinking star universe corresponds to the reward of a 2-star mission, Ba Se said. Lu Yin frowned. Ba Se, you said before that there were only 3 unknown knowledge of human civilization, corresponding to the 2-star, 5-star, and 6 stars mission rewards. The Mountain Sword sect must be one of them. Now that I have taken the Mountain Sword sect away, how do you still have it? Ba Se said, the Mountain Sword sect belongs to a certain unknown civilization, not the entire unknown mission rewards. Which unknown? No comment. Lu Yin's gaze was dignified. Was that so? That's right. Every unknown had its own understanding and opportunity of the square inch, and it would not be connected to the entire unknown. The Mountain Sword sect did not belong to the unknown knowledge. Sinking Star Universe? Ba Se told Lu Yin the coordinates of the Sinking Star Universe. Lu Yin asked about the situation of the Sinking Star Universe, and Ba Se did not say much. The coordinates were the reward, and any more would have to be exchanged with additional rewards. After all, they were all knowledge. However, it only corresponded to the reward of a 2-star mission. Lu Yin exited the knowledge trail and found Jiang Feng, asking him to explore it. He did not have time to constantly explore new universes. Especially since the Azure Lotus Emperor had been sealed, he had to oversee the 3 universes to prevent accidents. He could not really hand over human civilization to the unknown. At this moment, the Karma Celestial phenomenon was replaced by the Karma Heavenly Tao, and Lu Yin enveloped the 3 universes with the Karma Heavenly Tao just like before. Looking at the current immortal realm of human civilization, only Jiang Feng was the most suitable to explore the Sinking Star universe. He wanted to see if the people of the Sinking Star universe were suitable to merge with the 3 universes. The Sinking Star universe was within the scope of the unknown knowledge. If they did not merge, what awaited them was to be used to attack other civilizations and eventually be destroyed. They should be aware of this themselves. Jiang Feng agreed, and Lu Yin took Jiang Feng with teleport. The distance between the 3 universes and the Sinking Star universe was not as far as the Immortal Plume origin tree. After several teleportations, they saw the Sinking Star universe. It was a cosmic civilization that spread throughout the stars. Lu Yin took Jiang Feng in and left. He sensed that there was an eternal realm in this universe, but there was only one, and Jiang Feng could deal with it. He was a powerhouse who could walk step by step in front of Si Qin and give it a blow, even if it was useless. Lu Yin returned to the knowledge trail and used a 4 stars mission reward to heal the Alarm Gate's injuries. The Alarm Gate had been severely injured by the Edge and had not recovered from his injuries. He had almost been killed in the battle with the Immortal Plume. Now that the Azure Lotus Emperor had been sealed, there was no one to help the Alarm Gate, and he could only think of the unknown knowledge. The 4 stars mission reward was definitely enough to heal the Alarm Gate's injuries. According to the value of the reward itself, it seemed like a waste of talent, but this kind of thing could not be calculated by value. Not to mention a 4 stars mission reward, even if it was a 5 stars or 6 stars mission reward, he would not hesitate. As long as he could heal the Alarm Gate's injuries. These mission rewards all came from the battlefield. In fact, being forced to fight was not a bad idea. Lu Yin believed that his ability to protect himself was very strong, and it was easier to obtain mission rewards on the battlefield than outside of it. Now he only had 1 6 stars mission reward and 2 5 stars mission rewards left. He planned to exchange for something, and the first thing he wanted was people. Traces of a human civilization. The unknown knowledge trail had 2 human civilizations. He was about to speak when he suddenly felt an inexplicable chill. The image of the meteor realm being split into 2 appeared in his mind. The horror of that moment was still fresh in his mind. Why did the Master of Balance make a move? Because it wanted to limit the upper limit of human civilization and not allow it to become stronger. On the other side of the meteor realm was the longevity universe. It was very likely that the Master of Balance knew about the longevity universe's situation, which was why it had cut off the meteor realm. Now, if he used the reward to exchange for traces of human civilization, then what would the result be? The fate of the meteor realm had already explained everything. Perhaps the moment he found out about the traces of human civilization would be the moment that human civilization was destroyed. The unknown knowledge trail had promised to protect the 3 universes' human civilizations, not all of them. The Sinking Star universe only corresponded to a 2-star mission reward, so there was no problem. However, a 5-star mission reward would either require a human civilization that was as strong as a fishing civilization or a threat to the unknown knowledge trail. This was not something that the unknown knowledge trail wanted to see. Not to mention the 6 stars mission reward. His exchange could bring disaster to the other 2 civilizations. The more he thought about it, the colder it became. Lu Yin took a deep breath and suppressed the temptation of exchanging for traces of human civilization, calming himself down. He could not be impulsive. The unknown knowledge trail was the mortal enemy of human civilization, and he could not watch them grow stronger. The Balance Envoy sword had only been a warning. If he wanted to find human civilization, he could not use the unknown knowledge trail. Actually, when he thought about it this way, one of the unknown knowledge trail's human civilizations had to be the longevity universe. Otherwise, why would the Balance Envoy cut off the meteor realm? Was it the meteor realm? Or was the longevity universe a civilization that the Balance Envoy could use? Was it not within the unknown knowledge trail? No matter what the reason was, Lu Yin's every move was being watched. At his current level, he could see further and others could see more of him. Lu Yin, please choose the reward you want to exchange, 8 colors reminded him. Lu Yin thought for a moment. I want to exchange for knowledge. Okay. I want to know the difference between the immortal plume tree and the other mother trees. 8 Colors was silent for a moment. Okay, exchange for the 6 stars mission reward, knowledge. Wait, the 6 stars mission reward? Luin was surprised. The scene of destroying the immortal plume tree had shocked him, so he wanted to know more. However, it did not need to consume the 6 stars mission reward. That was the 6 stars mission reward. 8 Colors said, this knowledge trail must consume the 6 stars mission reward. Luin said, forget it, I'll think about it. He wanted to know the truth of that scene, but the 6 stars mission reward was too important for him and human civilization. An additional knowledge trail was not enough to change the current situation. He believed that Jiulei knew about this knowledge trail, but it was destroyed anyway. The most important thing now was to increase his strength. I want to exchange for mother trees with the 5 stars mission reward. How many can I exchange? Mother trees? Yes. The green dots in the mother trees were of great help to him, so the more the better. 8 Colors said, the unknown knowledge trail will accumulate for you. Accumulate? The unknown knowledge trail will destroy the mother trees instead of keeping them. Luin frowned. 8 Colors, your exchange reward is too much. Either the price is too high or it takes too much time. Can't you be more decisive? 8 Colors said, please choose whether to exchange or not. Luin was impatient. Of course not. How long will it take for you to accumulate? 8 Colors was silent. Chapter 4394. Luin was also silent. After thinking for a long time, he finally chose to exchange for knowledge, but it was about the distance between the 3 universes. I want to use the 5-star mission reward to exchange for information about the 3 universes and the fishing civilization within the distance that you can exchange for. Now that he was protecting the 3 universes on behalf of Teal Lotus Protector, he knew how much pressure this burden was. If he didn't know his surroundings, he wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Maybe a powerful civilization would appear as soon as he left. It was too difficult to rely on himself to see his surroundings, but the unknown could. At present, only fishing civilizations could threaten human civilization. If he didn't reach the level of a fishing civilization, the unknown could easily solve it. But if he reached the level of a fishing civilization, even if the unknown promised to protect him for 2,000 years, human civilization would still suffer losses, just like the immortal plume invasion. So Luin wanted to know if there were any fishing civilizations around. Using a 5-star mission reward for this seemed not worth it, but he felt at ease. Besides, he also wanted to see what kind of fishing civilization it was. It might be a strong enemy in the future. The rewards that Luin exchanged for made 8 Color feel embarrassed again and again. The previous rewards that the unknown exchanged were not so complicated. Yes, based on your knowledge of the distance, there is a fishing civilization within 1,000 years of the speed of an ordinary eternal realm. You can choose from the 5-star mission reward. First, tell you the specific situation of this fishing civilization. Second, expand the range to a speed of 5,000 years, but only tell you the number of fishing civilizations. Please choose. 1,000 years? That was enough. 1,000 years of the speed of an eternal realm was a very long distance. This 1,000 years was defined with the 3 universes as the center, unless the fishing civilization sat on it. Otherwise, it would never find the human civilization. But since the unknown could see this fishing civilization clearly, it might be possible to lead this fishing civilization to destroy the 3 universes. It was better to see this fishing civilization clearly. There was no need to expand the range to a speed of 5,000 years. I choose the first one to see this fishing civilization clearly. Okay. Next, 8 Color told Luin about the specific situation of the fishing civilization. After listening, Luin silently left knowing trace. Soon after, he entered again, this time looking for Demao. 8 Color, I want to talk to Demao alone. You have to confirm that it is in knowing trace before I can let you talk alone. Luin looked at the dark knowing trace. Demao, are you there? I have something to talk to you about. No one responded. Demao, I have good news. Red Hero told me something. If you don't respond, I will take it seriously. Demao spoke. Humph, kid, don't think I don't know what you're planning. You want to use me to deal with Red Hero? Luin was dissatisfied. Don't say things that affect our unity. How many times have I said it? He then called Basei over so that he could speak with Demao alone. Do you have any mother trees? What do you want the mother trees for? Demao was puzzled. It wanted the mother trees for its cultivation, which was related to itself. Why did this human want so many mother trees? Luin replied, don't worry about that. How about it? Any more? Deal. There's nothing in your human civilization worth trading with me. What if it's an unknown 5-star mission? Luin asked. Do you want it? Of unknown. Demao was surprised. Why did Luin want so many mother trees? Reason told him that the more Luin needed it, the more he could not give it to him. But he really needed the unknown. Even Demao would find it difficult to complete a 5-star mission. Looking at the entire unknown, how many could complete a 5-star mission? Luin could only complete it because of his contributions on the battlefield. Teleportation was the biggest contribution. Luin urged, how about it? Do you want to exchange? If not, I will find someone else. I don't necessarily need the mother trees. I have other needs. Haha, the old man should be willing to exchange. 2 mother trees, Demao said. Luin was amused. His tone was full of sarcasm. Demao, do you think I am an idiot? 2 mother trees? How many is that? I dare say that as long as I am willing, I can collect them in a few years with my teleportation speed. Even 8 Color said that you need to accumulate enough mother trees for a 5-star mission. Do you think it is only worth 2 mother trees? Demao sneered. Then you can collect them yourself. The most important thing in collecting mother trees is not the speed but the goal. Can you find so many civilizations? With your human civilization as the center, even with the speed of an eternal life realm, how many civilizations can there be? Do these civilizations all have mother trees? Let me tell you, there are not as many as you think. There are too many accidents in the process of biological evolution and development, and I have dug up many mother trees of civilizations. Even if you have teleportation, you can't find a mother tree in 100 years. A certain number of mother trees. Then 200 years. Time means nothing to us, Luin retorted. Demao laughed. Then you can go find them yourself. Luin frowned. Demao really did not care. He was still certain that he could not collect them. In fact, he really thought so. It should not be difficult to find civilizations with teleportation and mirroring. Even if he only found one in a year, 200 years would be enough. But the biggest problem was that he would not forcibly destroy the mother trees. If the mother trees were growing well, he would not touch them. Otherwise, he would not be able to get over it. This came from the experience of the starry sky of the Xuanhuan universe tree. He always felt that the mother trees were protecting them. So it was not something that could be collected in 200 years. Even 1,000 years would not be enough to collect a single mother tree. He continued to obtain the mother tree through Demao. In fact, from Demao's point of view, this was also a way to trade with him. It would force Demao to continue collecting the mother tree. The source was still with him, but he really needed the mother tree. All living things were selfish. Luin was no exception. There was no need to find excuses. Since he could not get over it, he would not do it and let Demao do it. Besides that, time was also very important to him. He had many other things to do and did not have the time to collect mother trees. 5 mother trees. I'll trade, Luin said. Demao scolded, are you crazy, kid? 5 mother trees? Do you think I planted the mother trees? You can have as many as you want? That's the reward for a 5-star mission. Listen carefully, it's a 5-star mission reward. Listen carefully, the reward for a 5-star mission cannot be traded. Even if I want it, I have to go through you. You will know what I exchanged with the unknowns. Because of that, the value of the reward has been reduced by half. That's too much. Reduced by half? Unless you're using it to deal with me. You're not qualified. Then 5 mother trees it is. 3 at most. That's all. 4. That's my bottom line. 3. That's also my bottom line. 4. 3. 3.5. How about we both take a step back? Luin asked. Demao hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing. Fine. 3.5 mother trees. Deal. Luin sighed. With so many mother trees, it would take him a long time to find them all by himself. He might as well take the reward as an exchange for time. He would also know what Demao wanted to exchange with the unknowns through him, which would help him understand Demao better. By the way, I'm actually losing out on this deal. Why don't you tell me about Air Mao as a bonus? Humph, you can choose not to trade. That's not how you do business. Reciprocity is the way to go, Luin advised. Demao laughed. Kid, how many mother trees do you think I have? Let me tell you, after this deal, I'll only have half a mother tree. You can't trade with me even if you want to. Then just give me half. It's not much anyway. Dream on. What's the point of you hogging half a mother tree? Are you trying to be stubborn? Cut the crap. Use the 5-star mission reward to exchange for a branch from the unknowns, Then send it to me at these coordinates. Lu Ying was surprised. A branch from the unknowns? A branch that had fallen from the unknowns? It was normal for trees to wither. It was the same for mother trees in the unknowns. But why would Demao want a branch from the unknowns? He called out to 8 Color, I've decided. Use the 5-star mission reward to exchange for a branch. 8 Color's voice was calm. Sure, the branch is under the unknowns. Go get it. Lu Ying exited Knowledge Trail and let Master Grass go get it. He would not enter Knowledge Trail directly anyway. After a while, Lu Ying teleported into space and saw the unknowns and the giant in front of him. Lu Ying and Demao looked at each other from afar. Compared to the last few times, they were much calmer this time. Lu Ying slowly approached Demao. Demao's eyes burned with desire as he looked at Lu Ying. We meet again, Demao. Lu Ying smiled as he felt the giant's pressure. It was not as strong as before. It was not that Demao had weakened or restrained his aura, but that Lu Ying had grown stronger. He had the confidence to face Demao. Demao's voice was loud and clear, more than 100 times louder than when he was in Knowledge Trail. Cut the crap, where is it? Lu Ying looked at Demao deeply. To be honest, he did not want to give it to him. The branch of the unknowns, although it was a branch, was full of divine power. The vastness of this divine power could be said to be no less than the tricolor divine power transformation. Perhaps it was because of the withered branches and leaves, but the divine power was not as overbearing as the tricolor divine power transformation. Lu Ying himself wanted to absorb this divine power, but he still could not fully control the tricolor divine power transformation. If he absorbed this divine power rashly, he might lose control like the first time when he used the tricolor divine power transformation. Not every enemy could do nothing to him like the mud blade. Now that he had finally balanced the tricolor divine power transformation, he could not bear the divine power in the unknowns. But he could keep it and use it later. When he absorbed more green light spots, his body could withstand more divine power. The divine power in the unknowns would be enough to raise his strength to another level. But the premise was that there were more green light spots. So he had to get the green light spots first and then the divine power. Apex mobile version website. Chapter 4395. The reason why he was willing to continue the trade was that Master Grass had told him that there were still many branches under the divine tree. Otherwise, Lu Ying would not have been willing to trade. The mother tree could be found slowly. This kind of opportunity to increase divine power was rare. He did not know whether this trade was a gain or a loss. But through this trade, he knew that there was a possibility of the divine tree's branch increasing divine power. Also, why did Demao want this? He remembered that Red Hero called Demao the swordmaster. Demao's cultivation power was definitely not simple. Otherwise, why would he dare to jump around in the unknown world? He even dared to compete with Red Hero. The divine tree's branch was taken out. Suddenly, the sky changed color and divine power surged. It was full of oppression. Fortunately, because it was a branch, the divine power was not that overbearing. Demao looked at the divine tree's branch. He raised his hand and extended it in front of Lu Ying. Lu Ying grabbed the branch. Demao, it's not worth it. Demao stared at Lu Ying. You don't want to trade? Lu Ying shook his head. I mean exchanging a 5-star mission reward for the divine tree's branch. It doesn't feel worth it. That's a 5-star mission reward. You have to destroy a fishing civilization to get it? You're exchanging it for this branch? Don't you think you're losing out? Demao sneered. A fishing civilization can be destroyed, but the divine tree's branch, other than joining the unknown world and completing a 5-star mission, there's no other way to get it. In terms of value, it's more precious than a fishing civilization. Lu Ying stared at Demao. There was something he did not say, and that was the use of the divine tree's branch. This was the most precious part of the divine tree's branch. Perhaps this branch of the tree of God could increase Demao's combat power. At its level, even a slight increase in combat power would be terrifying. Demao did not say anything else. He stared at Lu Ying and waited for his decision. Lu Ying released his hand and let the branch fall into Demao's hand. Demao immediately retracted his hand and gave the coordinates of the remaining mother trees to Lu Ying before leaving. Demao. Lu Ying suddenly called out to him. Demao looked back. Lu Ying looked at him. This branch is not enough. Demao said, I want as much as you have. But I don't have any more mother trees. It will take a long time to collect them. Alright, I remember now. You still have a 6 stars mission reward, right? You destroyed the immortal plume tree. Although the immortal plume tree was repaired, you still completed the mission. Lu Yin's lips curled up. Yes, a 6 stars reward mission. I'm waiting for all of you to exchange with me. Demao gave Lu Yin a deep look before leaving. There was a mother forest in front of him, but when he entered and left, the mother forest had already disappeared. He had exchanged for the rewards of the 2 5-star missions. Actually, he didn't exchange for the rewards that he really wanted. However, he had no choice. This was the situation. People wouldn't do as they pleased. However, he wasn't in a hurry to exchange for this 6 stars mission reward. He didn't know what to exchange for. Combat skills? Cultivation method? Or what? It was meaningless. No matter how strong one's power was, it still needed to be cultivated. If he could cultivate his current power well, he could already be considered invincible. Since ancient times, who could single-handedly kill an existence that conformed to 2 laws with the strength of a rogue? Absolutely not, and the future was also uncertain. He was already standing at the peak of the current level, and the power he grasped was also strong enough. What he lacked was the realm. As he thought about it, he teleported again and again to find the remaining mother forests before absorbing the green dots. Inside his body, the number of green dots increased by a lot. He could also add so many green light spots in front of the tree. Coupled with absorbing the green light spots of the immortal plume tree, he wondered if he could master the nirvana tree technique. Back then, the nirvana tree technique had transformed his physical strength in a short period of time. The nirvana tree technique was a different concept for him compared to others. He looked forward to the day when the nirvana tree technique was completely cultivated. As for these green dots, the more the better. Demao strengthened himself with the divine tree's withered branches while Lu Yin also strengthened himself with the green dots. Following that, Lu Yin returned to the human universe and entered the karmic sea. He began to comprehend the Azure Lotus Shield's karmic battle technique, the Red Lotus Tomb. The Azure Lotus Shield had told him to unlock the Red Lotus Tomb when he was confident that he could deal with the South Spirit. Thus, he decided to comprehend it first just in case. Lu Yin sat cross-legged in the karmic sea and released the heavenly Tao of karmic sea. He touched every corner of the karmic sea. Where was the Red Lotus Tomb? It took him 10 years to comprehend it. One day, 10 years later, the karmic sea churned as karma shot up into the sky and intertwined with each other. Finally, they turned into rocks and fell to the ground. Lu Yin opened his eyes. He had succeeded. He had also mastered the karmic battle technique, Red Lotus Tomb. At the same time, he also knew how to unlock the Red Lotus Tomb. This meant that he could release the Azure Lotus Shield at any time. However, this was not his true goal for comprehending the Red Lotus Tomb. His true goal was to create a key that could allow others to unlock the Red Lotus Tomb. The Red Lotus Tomb was like a lock that locked the Azure Lotus Shield and the South Spirit. To unlock this lock, he had to comprehend karma. Lu Yin stood up and left the karmic sea to enter the Mirage domain. This was the most suitable place for him to try to create the key. After staying in the Mirage domain for a long time, Lu Yin came out and found the startled goddess. He gave her a karmic fruit. This karmic fruit was the result of Lu Yin's time in the Mirage domain. He could unlock the Red Lotus Tomb without comprehending karma. If one day I'm not around and the 3 universes encounter an irresistible crisis, Senior, you will unlock the Red Lotus Tomb. The South Spirit will be a disaster, but you can do as you see fit and act according to the situation at that time, Lu Yin said. The startled goddess put away the karmic fruit. Who else has it? Lu Yin said, Senior, you have the startled goddess, so you're the most suitable. There's also my master, Mr. Mu. It's not good for too many people to have the key. 2 keys are enough. The startled goddess nodded. All right. Lu Yin left. The startled goddess looked at his departing figure and then looked up at the starry sky. One was the karmic great celestial phenomenon, while the other was the karmic heavenly Tao. Both of them protected the 3 universes, but Azure Lotus and Lu Yin were ultimately 2 different people, 2 completely different people. Senior Azure Lotus spent most of his time guarding the 3 universes so he could always stay here. However, Lu Yin would not. There were too many things that he needed to do outside. He was like the forerunner of the human civilization. The further he traveled, the safer the human civilization's voyage would be. He could not always stay in the 3 universes. He wished that he could be like Senior Azure Lotus and guard the 3 universes for him, allowing him to do as he pleased. However, no one in the current human civilization could do that. After Lu Yin handed the karmic fruit key to Mr. Mu, he rested for half a year before leaving the 3 universes. He also wanted to guard the 3 universes, but if he did so, his strength would increase too slowly. When would he be able to release the Azure Lotus Shield? The power of the 10-eyed crow might be an opportunity. He went to look for the 10-eyed crow. After Lu Yin left, the karma heavenly Tao dissipated. The Stargate Xianghu was speechless. He had just thought that Lu Yin would not continue to guard the three universes, but Lu Yin had already left. This was too fast. Before going to look for the 10-eyed crow, Lu Yin went to look for the 10-eyed crow. A trip to the Red Spectre under the stars to confirm Red Hero's whereabouts was to prevent him from being ambushed by Red Hero if anything happened to the 10-eyed crow. Senior Xuanhuan, is Red Hero here? Lu Yin asked. The wine asked, I don't know. Lu Yin scanned the heavens. He had not appeared for a long time, and Red Hero had hidden him well. There was also Rangyu. Come out and meet me, Red Hero, Lu Yin shouted. The starry skies were silent. No one responded. Everyone in red clothes beneath the stars heard this, but they weren't surprised. Although it was said to be an entire universe, to a powerhouse like Lu Yin, the universe wasn't that big. Lu Yin frowned. If you don't come out now, I'm going to meet Mao here. In the distance, Red Hero's figure walked out and stared at Lu Yin with a strange gaze. There was a deep fear in his eyes. This fear came from Lu Yin's completion of one mission after another, from Lu Yin destroying the immortal plume tree, and from the three universes resolving the immortal plume attack. When he learned that the immortal plume had attacked the three universes, he thought that the human civilization was finished and that it was impossible for them to stop it. Even if the unknowns reacted quickly and attacked the immortal plume tree, causing most of the immortal plume to return, there were still three immortal plume left in the three universes. They were all existences that were compatible with the laws of the two universes, so the human civilization would definitely die. He was waiting for this result. However, what he got was one seal, one death, and one escape. This result shocked even the unknowns, not to mention the immortal plume. Just as the other unknowns had said, even if they took action they might not be able to win. The human civilization was stronger than he had thought. Lu Yin's improvement was also faster than he had thought. First it was Mingyu and then it was Changdo. This kid was constantly getting closer to him. If Lu Yin gave him more time he might be able to threaten him. When he thought of this, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Lu Yin saw the murderous intent in Red Hero's eyes and sneered, "Don't tell me you want to take action, Red Hero. As a traitor you should have the awareness of a traitor. You are the unknown's lackey and you will always be." Red Hero took a deep breath and suppressed his impulse. His tone was cold, "I can't touch you and you can't touch me. Lu Yin, let's forget about the past. The human civilization should be united." Lu Yin laughed. His laughter was filled with mockery. In the Blood Tower, Xuanhuan shook his head. His eyes were also filled with mockery. The West Upper Peak was surprised that the hero ancestor would say such a thing. Red Hero's face was terrifyingly gloomy. "Red Hero, you have the face to say such things. You betrayed the 9th base. What? Are you going to act out another betrayal now?" Lu Yin mocked. Red Hero said in a low voice, "The outside world is bigger than you think. What you see now is far from the limit. The 9th base's destruction was self-inflicted. They did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. I do not deny that I betrayed for myself, but if not for my betrayal, the human civilization might not even exist today. If not for the unknown's rejection, the human civilization would be gone now. Red Hero, your belief is that once you betray to the end. The continuation of the human civilization is determined by history, and it has nothing to do with you," Xuanhuan shouted. Lu Yin said, "Senior, there is no need to talk nonsense with him. No matter what the 9th base did, he is a traitor. No matter how the human civilization continues, it has nothing to do with him." Then he looked at Red Hero. "In the three universes, there is a person called Master Greengrass. In order to spiritualize the universe, he did not hesitate to betray the human civilization and cause the death of an eternal realm human. In his mind, the three universes were definitely not the unknown's opponents and could be destroyed at any time. Thus, he wanted to continue the human civilization. Betrayal was his path. No matter whether his choice was right or wrong, at least he sincerely wanted to continue the human civilization. As for you, you did it for yourself. Master Greengrass made the choice with his original heart, but you want to take the consequences for yourself. You want to forcefully wash away the history of your betrayal. Red Hero, you are more shameless and despicable than I thought." Chapter 4396. Red Hero's face was gloomy as he spoke slowly. "If one day your three universes will be destroyed, you can only be saved by betraying humanity. I want to see what you will choose." With that, he disappeared. Lu Yin looked at the empty starry sky. This seemed to have an answer. Didn't he join the unknown? Betray? That would depend on how one betrayed. Joining the unknown was also a kind of betrayal. Betraying the ancestors who fought for humanity against the unknown. But his betrayal and Red Hero's betrayal were two completely different concepts. In order for a civilization to stand up, someone had to bend down and carry it. They had to carry the civilization and climb up step by step. Mr. Lu, what happened? The Red Hero's attitude had changed from the beginning to the end. What did Lu Yin do when he exposed Yu Hui's brothers Sua Wei Muexen? Lu Yin told them about what had happened recently, and Jiuwen and Shi Shangfeng were dumbfounded. They actually started a war with Xianling, and Lu Yin killed more than one Xianling. Furthermore, they were Xianling that matched 2 laws. It was unbelievable. What's wrong with this kid? How did he do it? Even if they were immortal beings, they couldn't figure it out. As for Qinglian Shangyu and Nanling sealing the Red Lotus tomb, Jiuwen sighed deeply. Actually, this move was originally left for Red Hero. Lu Yin guessed it. But sealing Nanling is more appropriate. Jiuwen sighed and looked into the distance with a complicated gaze. When I told Qinglian about the Red Lotus tomb, he swore that he would make Xianling pay the price. Now he did it, but I still can't get rid of the traitor. Lu Yin comforted him. That day will come soon. Jiuwen smiled and looked at Lu Yin. I know now. I finally know why Qinglian dared to leave everything to you. With you here, I believe in him. Shi Shangfeng looked at Lu Yin with respect. This young man is terrifyingly strong. Lu Yin bowed to Jiuwen and left. Since he was sure that Red Hero was in the Red Coat civilization, he could go find the 10-eyed crow. After teleporting again and again, Lu Yin saw the huge gray shadow again. It stood in the starry sky and seemed to be looking in one direction forever. Lu Yin took out Mount Supreme. Master Qingqiao walked out with a helpless expression. He was brought out again. Senior, sorry for the trouble. Master Greengrass was speechless. Can't you find someone else next time? Don't drag me along with you. Lu Yin did not reply and instead looked up at one of the eyes on the 10-eyed crow's forehead. He had to bring someone out. Although there was a green light spot, who knew if the green light spot would work on the other 2 eyes? It would be safer to have an eternal life realm expert by his side. Master Greengrass glanced into the distance. Is that the 10-eyed crow? During the war between Xianling and the 3 universes, Lu Yin's heaven's eye had locked onto Xianling multiple times. The greatest threat to Xianling had come from that creature. He didn't dare to look to prevent any accidents from happening. Lu Yin stared at one of the eyes on the 10-eyed crow's forehead. There were only 2 eyes left. He looked at it for a while and moved a little. He wasn't surprised. What was going on? Nothing happened at all? He kept changing directions, sometimes looking at the 10-eyed crow, sometimes looking at the grass grandmaster, but nothing happened. Slowly, he approached the 10-eyed crow and finally arrived in front of the eye that he had been staring at and stared at it. The 10-eyed crow was dead, but its eye was still very lively, just like the crow-fixed body eye that he had absorbed. Lu Yin could not help but raise his hand. He touched that eye as he wanted to see what abilities it had. The moment he touched it, his vision changed and what Lu Yin saw was Master Greengrass. He was stunned. What was going on? Did the universe change directions? At that moment, the 10-eyed crow was behind him, and he was still in the same position as when he raised his hand to touch it. However, what he touched was only the void and not that eye. What just happened? Lu Yin asked as he looked at Master Greengrass. Master Greengrass's face was filled with shock and disbelief. You just suddenly turned around. Lu Yin frowned. Suddenly turned around? Yes, I suddenly turned around and you didn't notice it yourself? Lu Yin did not notice it, and he thought that the universe's starry sky had suddenly changed directions. Of course, that was impossible, but he really did not notice it at all. Why did he suddenly turn around? He slowly turned around and looked at the 10-eyed crow. He turned around, thought for a moment, and then raised his hand to touch it again. In an instant, his vision changed and he turned around again. This time he was prepared, but he still could not detect it when he turned around. It was as if the world had turned around in an instant, and there was no chance for him to react. He tried again, and this time he used all his strength to control his body, but he turned around again. No matter how he tried to control his body, he would still turn around. This was an action that was difficult to resist. Lu Yin looked deeply at the 10-eyed crow's eye. It can't be. Could it be that this eye's innate gift is to make living creatures turn around? This is really disgusting. Just think about it, what would it mean to make a living creature suddenly turn around during a battle? That living creature would not be able to react in time, and not to mention what kind of attack it would face if it was suddenly turned around, it would also be traumatized. This 10-eyed crow's innate gift was really strange. One to fix the body and one to turn around. Could the other 8 eyes have similar abilities? If that was the case, it was no wonder that no one could defeat it alone, as it could directly control the enemy. He was sure that Xian Ling's instant transmission would not stand a chance against the 10-eyed crow, and she would be controlled immediately, just like a doll. To be honest, Lu Yin was very tempted by this ability, but how could he obtain it? He released the starry sky from his heart, and green dots of light spread towards his arm. Only the green dots of light gave Lu Yin the confidence to obtain the 10-eyed crow's innate gift. He did not know how others obtained it during the 9th base era, but he only had this power. Thinking about it, those who obtained the 10-eyed crow's innate gift during the 9th base era were definitely at the Eternal Realm. Not necessarily, and there might be those who were not at the Eternal Realm who obtained this innate gift, but how did they obtain it? What method did they use? Or did they have a certain level of skill? Then why were there only 3 eyes left? Lu Yin touched the eye with doubts and there was a crack. Half of his body twisted, but because he had used the green dots of light to fix himself, his body had fractured. He did not expect this to happen. Lu Yin rubbed his waist and this injury quickly recovered. He had confirmed that the green dots of light were effective, but not that effective. It should be because there were not enough green dots, or else he could have fixed himself completely. The reason why he had fractured this time was because he had fixed himself to a certain extent. As long as his entire body was fixed and he could touch the eye directly, he might be able to obtain this ability. This ability should be called Crow Turn. Just thinking about it made him feel strange. To suddenly make someone turn around in the middle of a battle, anyone would be dumbfounded. Lu Yin realized that he was walking further and further down the path of being a scoundrel. In the distance, Grandmaster Qingqiao also saw this. He looked at Lu Yin with a strange gaze. Why did it feel like all powers had changed when it came to Lu Yin? He could directly make someone turn around. Just thinking about it was both funny and horrifying. It could leave a psychological shadow in someone's heart. He could not figure out how the former Lord of 9 Bases had defeated the 10-eyed crow. Even though he knew that the green dots of light were not enough, Lu Yin continued to try. Every time he fractured his bones, he did not give up. As long as there was a chance to obtain this ability, he would work hard. A few months later, Master Bluegrass's voice suddenly rang out, "Unknown is looking for you." Lu Yin looked over and thought for a moment before lying down in the hanging coffin and entering Unknown. 8 colors looking for me? You should accept a mission. Lu Yin remembered that the 3 stars mission that he had accepted before, capture the jade glimmer in the sky, had lost its effectiveness. He had not accepted it because of the forced expedition, and had rested for a while. Now that the war had ended more than 10 years ago, it was indeed time to accept a mission. Please select the difficulty of the mission you wish to accept. 3 stars. Lu Yin did not hesitate. Do you have any inclination? What do you mean? Destroy civilizations, capture creatures, or something else? Anything. 8 colors did not say much. Alright, 3 stars mission. Capture a tributary of the River of Time. Lu Yin was surprised. A tributary of the River of Time? You want one? A tributary of the River of Time. The more the better. Lu Yin was puzzled. Every civilization in the universe has a tributary of the River of Time. You want me to capture one with unknown abilities? Haha, this old guy can even draw down the main River of Time. What do you want a tributary of the River of Time for? No comment. Lu Yin felt that something was wrong. A tributary of the River of Time was worth a 3 stars mission? Although he had obtained many mission rewards in recent times, even a 6 stars mission reward, that was because of the war. Even during the war he could not have teleported and could have died at any time. Even a 5 stars mission on the battlefield could bury him. Not to mention outside the battlefield. A 4 stars mission was to destroy a civilization with 10 Eternals, while a 3 stars mission corresponded to destroying a civilization with 5 Eternals. It was obviously not the same as capturing a tributary of the River of Time. Even the original Tianyuan universe, which did not have a single Eternals, could still capture a tributary of the River of Time. It should not be difficult. The unknown was not stupid and Lu Yin was not stupid either. There must be something behind this. Right? Capturing a tributary of the River of Time seemed to require completely destroying the universe, not restarting it. This was different. The reason why the Great Master had been brought to the 9th Heaven universe was because her universe had been completely destroyed. Coincidentally, the Blood Tower ruler had arrived, so she had not merged with the main River of Time and had instead joined the 9th Heaven universe. From this perspective, bringing the ability to completely destroy the universe might not be impossible for a 3 stars mission. 8 colors did not answer, So Lu Yin left Jizong and returned to the human civilization with Master Grass. He found the Blood Tower ruler and asked about capturing a tributary of the River of Time. Fortunately, he had not agreed to this mission. You want to capture a tributary of the River of Time? The Blood Tower ruler was shocked. To the side, the Great Master looked at Lu Yin. She had also been called over. After all, she had once been a ferryman of the River of Time. I don't want to capture it. It's the unknown. Lu Yin emphasized. He glanced at the Great Master. Every civilization has a time. So, the difficulty of capturing a tributary of the River of Time should be to completely destroy the universe. Only then can it be considered a 3-stars mission. Not only that, the Great Master said, you're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.